Be cool, be kind, be classy. The cupcakes so sweet and sexy. Have fun and enjoy the journey. Or just have a good attorney. No big whoop, no biggie. She lives near New York City. And not just a YouTube show. When you know, you better grab a straw. Learn about the law. It's cool here in the shade. Sipping motions of lemonade. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Oh, Melanie Little is going live. Oh no, where is Melanie? Follow the island's melody. There's a concert within reach. No surprise, she's at Jones Beach. She heard some music far away. Captain Jack Stack Harbor Bay. He sings and his piano plays. Not all sounds are waterways. Speaking Yiddish and Latin, it's not just for Manhattan. It's for Goethe and Machegas. Ridiculous that insanus. Oy vey, Marcus. Proceed, that's for schmucks. Be cool, be kind, be classy. My cupcakes are sweet and sassy. And not just a YouTube show. When you know. Cool heads will prevail. Kindness will never fail. Be classy and vastly wise. Melanie Little is going live.
Hello, my friends. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, everyone. 2 more days and a wake up. 2 more days and a wake up. So that means I still have a little bit of shopping time left. How's everybody doing today? Well, yesterday we did 2 shows and we had a lot of interest in this Blake Lively complaint. And I'm glad that we did because I have a lot of interest in this too, because this is my wheelhouse. This is what I do. Civil litigation, hostile work environment complaints, retaliation complaints, sexual harassment complaints. And I also auditioned to be in this movie. So this is a very interesting story for me. I auditioned to play Blake Lively's mother. And I didn't book it, but I wish I did. I wish I did because I would have helped her. I could have helped her walk through this complaint. I could have been there right on set to help her as this was happening. It's a shame. It's a shame. Oh, thank you, Sherry. She's doing better. She's not so little, but she's doing better. My daughter had a tonsillectomy on Friday, and that's the older you are, the more painful it is. And so thank you to so many of you who sent me emails with tips, and some nurses sent me tips. And I called the on-call doctor today, and I was like, yeah, this Motrin Tylenol thing's not really doing it. It's not really doing it. We're going to have to step it up a bit. So we got another prescription on the way. So thank you very much for asking. I appreciate that. Yes. I did an audition to play her mother. And I thought I could play Blake Lively's mother. Wouldn't that be great? Could you see it? Could you see it? I killed the audition. The woman who booked it had a lot more credits than I did. And, that's the way it goes sometimes. But, yeah, it's crazy. So this is a complaint that's been filed. It's not a lawsuit yet. So it's a complaint that's been filed with the Civil Rights Department of the state of California. And that's kind of like the first step. And then the Civil Rights Department investigates it to see if there's any merit to it. And we're going to find out exactly what a very high-powered PR firm can do, exactly what it takes to try and ruin someone's reputation who's got a huge following and a very good reputation before all of this happened, with a lot of money. Blake Lively married to Ryan Reynolds. And this is interesting. It's very interesting to see the inner workings of the PR machinations that can go on behind the scenes that we don't really know about, but we're going to learn about now. So buckle up, buttercups, for all of you who thought that Blake Lively was the one causing trouble and, being a whatever you want to call her during the promotion of this film. You're going to see what they had agreed upon prior to the promotion of the film. And all the stuff that was going on behind the scenes. Okay. All right. So let's take a look. Buckle up, because this is the long one, but we need to read it because we need to see the whole entire thing. I don't just want to summarize it for you. I want to read the actual document to you, because that's what we do here. We're legal based. We like to Talk about facts rather than rumor, gossip, and innuendo. We'll leave that to Kathy, who, by the way, if you didn't see her show this morning, I didn't get to watch the whole thing. But Kathy over at Rumor, Gossip, and Innuendo interviewed Tyrone Tucker from the Treehouse case this morning. And I haven't had a chance to go back and look at it, but I bet you it's funny. I bet you it's funny because knowing Kathy, her summary alone of the Treehouse murder case was hilarious. Hilarious. Thanks, Lori Jean, for becoming a new member. Hank stole Larry's lunchbox. And the good ones are here watching me, football, and Kaylee make cookies. That's awesome. I hope Kaylee's cookies are good. Thank you, Goodmans. Any talks or chance with getting Tennessee Nettie on? Haven't spoken to her. Don't know if she's allowed to talk to me, but I would love to. If anybody is friends with her, have her call me. Thank you all for making this such a fabulous place. Thank you. Thank you, True Crime Junkie, the OG, for coming in and hanging around with us. Okay. And here we go. High-powered law firm and high-powered law firm on behalf of Blake Lively filed this complaint for sexual harassment, retaliation, failure to investigate, prevent, and or remedy harassment, retaliation, aiding and abetting harassment and retaliation, breach of contract, intentional infliction of emotional distress, negligence, false light invasion of privacy, and interference with prospective economic advantage against Wayfarer Studios, Justin Baldoni, Jamey Heath, Steve Sarowitz, Melissa Nathan, the Agency Group PR, Jennifer Abel, RWA Communications, Jed Wallace, and Street Relations, Inc. Hello, Wisconsin. Hang on. Introduction. How many of you watched the movie? Wait, before we go, before we start, It Ends With Us. I think it's on Netflix now. I actually saw it in the theater. It's not a lawsuit. It's a civil rights complaint on civil. It's a civil law rights complaint filed with the California Civil Rights Department. So it's not a lawsuit yet, but I think there's a lot of merit to it because when you see the the pattern of conduct that they engaged in to orchestrate the ruining and destruction of Blake Lively's reputation, to find out that it goes on all the time is interesting. Okay, here you go. Introduction. So wait, the movie is called It Ends With Us. Did anybody see it? It Ends With Us? Some people did. I went to the theater and saw it. It's a movie about DV. And what had happened was, it's based on a book by Colleen Hoover called It Ends With Us. It's about breaking the cycle of DV. And what had happened was, during the promotion of this film, a lot of people got very angry with Blake Lively for not talking more about the DV aspect of it and trying to make it an uplifting story about women taking their power back. And you're going to see from reading this complaint that that's what they were supposed to be doing, because those were the agreed upon talking points. But she was destroyed on social media. And you're also going to find out that people were hired to destroy her on social media. So it was a hard movie to watch. It was a hard movie to watch. There are a lot of receipts attached to this. So just hang on a second. Let's read the complaint before we come to any conclusions, because they have receipts. It's not like they're just coming in and making allegations. Here we go. Introduction number 1. On January 4th, 2024, prior to resuming filming of It Ends With Us, the film, following guild strikes, an all-hands meeting was convened to address the hostile work environment that had nearly derailed production of the film. So for those of you who don't know, there was a SAG strike. There was an actors strike that went on for a very long time. And then there was a writers guild strike. And I believe they had to halt production here during it says guild strikes. So first SAG went on strike, the Screen Actors Guild. Then the Writers Guild went on strike, and it was a long time of no work for a lot of actors. So following guild strikes, an all-hands meeting was convened to address the hostile work environment that had nearly derailed production of the film. Attendees of the meeting included Justin Baldoni, who is the co-chairman and co-founder of Wayfarer Studios, the owner of the film, as well as the director, executive producer, and actor in the lead role of Ryle Kincaid, Jamey Heath, the chief executive officer of Wayfarer and producer of the film, Ange Gianetti, the film's representative for its distributor, Sony Pictures Entertainment, Alex Sachs, a producer on the film, Todd Black, a producer on the film, and Blake Lively, who played the role of Lily Bloom in the film. Ms. Lively also had the agreed-upon right to have a representative present. She chose her husband, given that the meeting was about repeated sexual harassment and other disturbing behavior by Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. For those of you who don't know, her husband is Ryan Reynolds, actor and investor in many, many companies who made like $1 bazillion. 2, as discussed in detail below, Ms. Lively was forced to address concerns about Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath's misconduct with them directly, and began doing so months before filming began. The concerns she raised were not only for herself, but for the other female cast and crew, some of whom she had also spoken up. The January 4th meeting occurred only after Wayfarer had rebuffed Ms. Lively's efforts repeatedly. 3. During the January 4th meeting, the parties discussed in detail the inappropriate conduct that Ms. Lively, her employees, and other cast and crew experienced at the hands of Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. After the list below was reviewed and discussed in its entirety, all parties present agreed that the outlined conduct would cease. Okay, here are the talking points from the meeting, and they all agreed that all of this was going to stop. Let me make that larger for you. 1, no more showing nude videos or images of women, including producer's wife, to Blake Lively or her employees. So apparently that was going on. This is stuff that was going on that they agreed to stop doing at this January 4th meeting. 2, no more mention of Mr. Baldoni's or Mr. Heath's previous, YouTube doesn't like that word, so we're going to say corn addiction, or Blake's lack of corn consumption to Blake or other crew members. 3, no more discussions to Blake and or her employees about personal experiences with sex, including as it relates to spouses or others. 4, no more mention to Blake or her employees of personal times that physical consent was not given in S acts as either the abuser or the abused. 5, no more descriptions of their own genitalia to Blake. 6, no more jokes or disparaging comments to be made to Blake and or her employees about HR complaints Wayfarer had already received on set about missing the HR meeting. 7, no more inquiries by Mr. Baldoni to Blake's trainer without her knowledge or consent to disclose her weight. 8, no more mention by Mr. Baldoni of him speaking to Blake's dead father. 9, no more pressing by Mr. Baldoni to Blake for Blake to disclose her religious beliefs or unsolicited shares of his religious beliefs. 10, if Blake and or her infant is exposed to the C word that caused the panty that YouTube also hates, Blake must be provided with immediate notice as soon as Wayfarer or any other producers become aware of such exposure without her needing to uncover days later herself. 7, an intimacy coordinator must be present at all times when Blake is on set in scenes with Mr. Baldoni. 12, no more personal physical touching of or sexual comments by Mr. Baldoni or Mr. Heath to be tolerated by Blake and or any of her employees, as well as any female cast or crew without their express consent. 13, no more improvising of kissing. All intimate touch must be choreographed in advance with Blake and an intimacy coordinator. No biting or sucking of lip without Blake's consent. And all intimate on-camera touch and conversations must be, quote, in character, end quote, not spoken from Mr. Baldoni to Blake personally. 14. Blake to have a representative on set at all times and a monitor during scenes involving nudity, activity, or violence with Mr. Baldoni. 15. All actors participating with Blake in intimate scenes involving her being in any state of nudity or simulated nudity must be classified as active working actors, not, quote, friends, end quote, of the director or producers, and must be pre-approved by Blake. 16. No more filming of any Blake nudity without a fully executed SAG-compliant nudity rider in place. Any such footage already shot without this rider in place and in direct violation of SAG requirements may not be used without Blake's and her legal representative's prior written consent. 17. Any scene by Blake or another performer depicting the character of Lily that involves nudity or simulated must be conducted strictly in accordance with the above referenced nudity rider and must adhere to the Blake approved script. So that would mean Blake and or her body double who was playing Lily perhaps in some of the scenes. 18. An intimacy coordinator must be on set for all scenes involving nudity and or simulated and must have a monitor to ensure compliance. 19. No monitors to be viewed or accessible on set or remotely during closed set scenes except by Blake approved essential crew and personnel. 20. No more entering, attempting to enter, interrupting, pressuring, or asking Blake to enter her trailer or the makeup trailer by Mr. Heath or Mr. Baldoni while she is nude for any reason. I mean, this is like mind-blowing. This is all the stuff that they were discussing at this meeting that had already been happening. Like, these were the talking points for the meeting. So you can understand why she may have seemed a little uncomfortable during the promotion of this film. 21. No more private multi-hour meetings in Blake's trailer with Mr. Baldoni crying with no outside Blake appointed representative to monitor. 22. No more pressing by Mr. Baldoni to sage any of Blake's employees. Sage, like with a sage candle, like burning sage around them. Okay. 23. Producer Alex Sachs to be given standard rights, inclusion, and authority per her job description and as represented to Blake when signing on. 24. Sony must have an active daily role in overseeing physical production for the remainder of the film to monitor safety for cast and crew, schedule, logistics, problem solving, and creative. 25. Engagement of an experienced producer to supervise the safety of the cast and crew, schedule, logistics, problem solving, and creative for the remainder of the shoot. Examples: Todd Lieberman, Elizabeth Cantillon, Miri Yoon, Lynette Howell. 26. Engagement of a BL-approved A-list stunt double to perform Lily in scenes with Mr. Baldoni involving grape and or violence. Blake to perform only close-up work or work from a Blake pre-approved shot list in scenes with Mr. Baldoni involving violence. 27. No more adding of scenes, oral or on-camera climaxing by Blake outside the scope of the script that Blake approved when signing onto the project. 28. No more asking or pressuring Blake to cross physical picket lines. That's pretty huge. You don't cross the picket line. 29. No more retaliatory or abusive behavior to Blake for raising concerns or requesting safeguards. 30. An in-person meeting before production resumes with Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, Ms. Sachs, the Sony representative, the new producer, Blake, and Blake's spouse, Ryan Reynolds, to confirm and approve a plan for implementation of the above that will be adhered to for the physical and emotional safety of Blake, her employees, and all the cast and crew moving forward. Paragraph number 4. But first, let's go in and thank the new members. Hello, Megan Easton became a new member. Miss Dutch 76 became a new member. Ricky's been here for 11 months. Says howdy to all you good folks. Hi, Ricky. Mary became a member. Congratulations. And also Gen X chick, who's been with me for 4 whole months. Thank you, my dear. Says author Colleen Hoover, I assume, has publicly supported Blake's complaint. Yeah, this is why this is one of the reasons why this is mind blowing is that this is a book about coercive control and DV. And it seems like that's exactly what was going on behind the scenes of the filming of this movie, which is the adaptation of the book. Paragraph 4. This meeting was an essential step in a process the parties had agreed to several months before to allow the cast and crew to safely resume production of the film. In mid-November of 2023, the parties had agreed in writing to implement a list of protections enumerated in a contract entitled Protections for Return to Production, attached here too as Exhibit A, which included 17 provisions designed to require Wayfarer to cease the onset behavior of Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. One of those provisions required an all-hands meeting to confirm and approve a plan for the implementation of certain protections that will be adhered to for the physical and emotional safety of Ms. Lively, her employees, and all cast and crew moving forward. Exhibit A, paragraph 17. We'll look at the exhibits after. After receiving the document, Wayfarer responded that Wayfarer, Sony, and production respectfully acknowledge that Ms. Lively has concerns regarding safety, professionalism, and workplace culture. Let's see if we can... Although our perspectives differs in many aspects, ensuring a safe environment for all is paramount, irrespective of differing viewpoints. Regarding your outlined requests, we find most of them not only reasonable, but also essential for the benefit of all parties involved. Footnote 1. We love the footnotes. That's where all the juicy stuff is. Notice what you don't see in this complaint. You don't see any typos, misspellings, grammatical errors, etc. Footnote 1 says Wayfarer ultimately confirmed its obligation to abide by all of the protections for return to production in a contractual rider executed on January 19th of 2024, which is attached here too as Exhibit B. So first, they agreed in writing to this list of protections, and then they had a contract drawn up and they signed it and they agreed to it. 5, at the end of the January 4th meeting, having discussed at length the details of concerns that had been expressed by Ms. Lively and others, the parties agreed to implement and follow the protections for return to production to ensure that the film could be completed, marketed, and released safely and successfully. And it was. Production of the film resumed on January 5th and concluded on February 9th of 2024. The film has been a resounding success. 6, leading up to and in connection with the release of the film, during the summer of 2024, Ms. Lively and fellow cast members promoted the film in accordance with the marketing plan created and delivered by the film's distributor, Sony, which is summarized in the talking points attached here too as Exhibit C. Ms. Lively and other cast members were under a contractual obligation to render promotional services in accordance with the marketing plan. The marketing plan directed the cast to, quote, focus more on Lily's strength and resilience as opposed to describing the film as a story about DV, and to avoid talking about this film that makes it feel sad or heavy. It's a story of hope. See Exhibit C at paragraph 2, and then we go to footnote 2, which says, Mr. Baldoni himself launched the marketing plan by hosting the first press event early in May of 2024, a month before any other cast did any promotion of the film. I need a sip, hold on. Paragraph 7. In the days leading up to the film's release, Mr. Baldoni abruptly pivoted away from the film's marketing plan and the type of publicity activities in which he had previously participated. What the public did not know was that Mr. Baldoni and his team did so in an effort to explain why many of the film's cast and crew had unfollowed Mr. Baldoni on social media and were not appearing with him in public. To that end, he and his team used domestic violence survivor content to protect his public image, as described in further detail below. That'll be in paragraphs 83 to 88. Yes, Kate, thank you for this. That marketing plan explains a lot of what angered people about Blake. That's right. And that is what she was under contract to do. And to make it more about Lily's strength and resilience, here it is right here in paragraph 6, as opposed to describing the film as a story about DV. That was the marketing plan. That's what she was contracted to do, obligated to do contractually. And that's what turned a lot of people against her. You are correct. And you're going to see it gets worse. It gets worse. She was literally doing her job, old line run. Yes. Yes. And she's a very well-seasoned actress. She's been doing this a long time. She's been doing this since she was a teenager. I want to say when she was in like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. How old was she? She was like 16. She's not a newbie. I mean, he was mad that people unfollowed him on social media. So you'll see, he hired a whole bunch of people to destroy her. 8, what the public also did not know was that this was the beginning of a multi-tiered plan that Mr. Baldoni and his team described as, quote, social manipulation, end quote, designed to, quote, destroy Ms. Lively's reputation. That plan was backed by virtually unlimited resources. Wayfarer's co-founder, co-chairman, and leading financier is multi-billionaire Steve Sarowitz, who divulged at the film's New York premiere on August 6, 2024, listen up, that he was prepared to spend $100 million to ruin the lives of Ms. Lively and her family. With that backing, Mr. Baldoni and his Wayfarer associates embarked on a sophisticated press and digital plan in retaliation for Ms. Lively exercising her legally protected right to speak up about their misconduct on the set, with the additional objective of intimidating her and anyone else from revealing in public what actually occurred. Yes, it is 2024. Yes, this is still going on in Hollywood. Number 9. On July 31st, 2024, following the recommendation of their publicist, Jennifer Abel, Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni retained a crisis communications specialist named Melissa Nathan and her company, the Agency Group, PR. Ms. Nathan delivered a proposal to Mr. Baldoni, which included a website, in parens it says to discuss, end parens, full Reddit, full social account takedowns, full social crisis team on hand for anything, engage with audiences in the right way, start threads of theories, and that is bolded, and then it says discuss in parentheses. This is the way, oh wait. Engage with audiences in the right way, start threads of theories, discuss. This is the way to be fully 100% protected. Ms. Nathan also proposed the creation of social fan engagement to go back and forth with any negative accounts, helping to change narrative and stay on track. Per Ms. Nathan, all of this will be most importantly untraceable. And that is in bold and quotes. As Ms. Abel described it, the plan was to engage in social media mitigation and proactive fan posting to counter the negative, as well as social manipulation. This is so interesting because think about some other cases that this could be going on in. The hired trolls. Dun, 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 says Becky. Yep, And don't worry, I mean, there's receipts on all of this. I saw somebody saying, yeah, this is just one side of the story. These are just allegations. She's obviously got witnesses to back this up, receipts. You're going to see as we go through this, screenshots, text messages, emails. So yeah, Lisa and Cannoli says these are her allegations, still unproven, only one side of the story. Well, let's see as we go through this. Sally says, Blake Lively, you go, girl. As Ms. Abel described it, the plan was to engage in social media mitigation and proactive fan posting to counter the negative, as well as social manipulation. Number 10. The plan went well beyond standard crisis PR. What Ms. Nathan proposed included a practice known as astroturfing. Well, there's a new thing that I never heard of before. Do you guys know what astroturfing is? Because we're about to find out. We're about to find out. Astroturfing has been defined as, quote, the practice of publishing opinions or comments on the internet, in the media, etc., that appear to come from ordinary members of the public, but actually come from a particular company or political group. Astroturfing. Footnote 4. Man, you think I could read that font? Hold on. Let me just make a finger. It's even in the Cambridge Dictionary. See also astroturfing in Wikipedia. Astroturfing is the deceptive practice of hiding the sponsors of an orchestrated message or organization, e.g. political, advertising, religious, or public relations, to make it appear as though it originates from and is supported by unsolicited grassroots participants. It is a practice intended to give the statements or organizations credibility by withholding information about the source's financial backers. Wow, I mean, that's really interesting. You know, so many people thought that I was a paid something, PR. I was paid by the Karen Reed team to go on YouTube and talk about my opinions about the Karen Reed case, and there's nothing that could be further from the truth. But perhaps somebody hired some people to go on Reddit, Twitter, you name, mostly Twitter, I think, because that's where most of the cesspool lurks, to post certain things as if it's their job 700 times a day. Maybe it's not only done with regard to celebrities. Maybe it's done in other types of cases too, where people want to sway public opinion. I don't know. Number 11, on August 2nd of 2024, TAG circulated a scenario planning document to Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and others, which described preparations and strategy, quote, should Ms. Lively and her team make her grievances public, end quote. It's called the scenario planning document. It's attached here too as Exhibit D. To, quote, get ahead of this narrative, Ms. Nathan's plan proposed strategies to advance misleading counter-narratives, including pushing Nathan's narrative that Ms. Lively had less than favorable reputation, proposing to explore planting stories about the weaponization of feminism, and that's quoted, and misleadingly blaming Ms. Lively for production members' job losses. We'll go to Exhibit D after we read this. And here's a screenshot of some messages here between Justin, two other people. I mean, I'll read what it says to you because it's going to be in the following paragraph, but in black is Justin Baldoni's message. Morning. Not in love with the document they sent. Not sure I'm feeling the protection I felt on the call. And then whoever's in blue here says, this is the first time I've personally gone through scenario planning with them. So I think let's let them discuss the thinking behind the document and the actual process and protocol of how they implement these things. That's the most important part of this, is how quickly they can shut things down and place stories in your favor. Be honest on this call and let's give real feedback to each point. And then Justin replies, yeah, it just feels very much like there's not much defense, and also them feeling strong, like she's going to do something, just a bit concerning what everyone had originally thought. Oh, thank you. This is a great Great, Leslie. Great explanation. A grassroots ethic is organic. Astroturfing is the opposite. It's fake. Well done. Number 12. Initially, Mr. Baldoni expressed concerns that TAG's written plan was insufficiently aggressive to protect him. Writing to Mr. Heath and Ms. Abel, he said he was, quote, not in love with the document they sent. Not sure I'm feeling the protection I felt on the call. It was with Ms. Nathan and her colleagues. In response, Mr. Heath attempted to reassure Mr. Baldoni that they had found the right people for his campaign. In Mr. Heath's words, quote, the most important part of this is how quickly they can shut things down and place stories in your favor. 13. Later that day, Ms. Abel and Ms. Nathan exchanged the following text messages expressing that Mr. Baldoni, quote, wants to feel like Ms. Lively can be buried, end quote. Ms. Abel and Ms. Nathan agreed that, of course, they would do just that, but could not say so in writing. Quote, we can't write it down to him. We can't write, we will destroy her. Imagine if a document saying all the things that he wants ends up in the wrong hands, end quote. And then here are some text messages between Jennifer Abel and Melissa Nathan. Jennifer says, you can, of course, do that, but I do think he needs to know I'm going to confidentially send you something. He's texting me and Jamey on the side just to arm you guys before the call. I think you guys need to be tough and show the strength of what you guys can do in these scenarios. He wants to feel like she can be buried. And then Melissa says back to Jennifer, of course, but you know, when we send over documents, we can't send over the work we will or could do because that could get us in a lot of trouble. Melissa says again, we can't write it down to him. We can't write, we will destroy her. We will go to this. We will do this. We will do this. We will do this. He has to look at it as an information document for us to be armed with. That's all. Imagine if a document saying all the things he wants ends up in the wrong hands. Well, imagine if your text messages wound up in a complaint to the California Civil Rights Department. Because they did. 14. Ms. Nathan followed this by assuring Ms. Abel, you know, we can bury anyone, but I can't write that to him. Followed up by, I will. I'll be very tough. 15. A few days later, on August 5th, 2024, Mr. Baldoni set the narrative for the social media campaign, sending Ms. Abel a screenshot of a thread on X that had accused another female celebrity of bullying women. Mr. Baldoni stated, quote, this is what we would need. And then here, let's enlarge this a bit, is a thread about Hailey Bieber. And it's a post by someone. It's too blurry. I can't read it. This is Hailey Bieber's history of bullying many women, not just Selena Gomez throughout the years, a thread. And then they write, this is what we would need. And then she responds, yes, I literally just spoke to Melissa about this on the break about what we discussed last night for social and digital. Focus on Reddit, TikTok, Instagram. Somebody said, I wonder how Blake got all these messages. Subpoena. You're going to see that. Hang on. "16. Ms. Abel responded that she had just spoken to Melissa about this, about what we discussed last night for social and digital. Ms. Abel added, focus on Reddit, TikTok, Instagram, with reassurance that Miss Lively would be destroyed and buried. Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni directed Ms. Nathan and her team to actively engage in their retaliatory social manipulation campaign. 17. In the weeks and months that followed, with the direction and approval of Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni, the team engaged in a sophisticated, coordinated, and well-financed retaliation plan. 18, the retaliation campaign relied on more than just publicists and crisis managers spinning stories. They also retained subcontractors, including a Texas-based contractor named Jed Wallace, who weaponized a digital army around the country from New York to Los Angeles to create, seed, and promote content that appeared to be authentic on social media platforms and internet chat forums. The Baldoni Wayfarer team would then feed pieces of this manufactured content to unwitting reporters, making content go viral in order to influence public opinion and thereby cause an organic pile-on. To safeguard against the risk of Ms. Lively ever revealing the truth about Mr. Baldoni, the Baldoni Wayfarer team created, planted, amplified, and boosted content designed to eviscerate Ms. Lively's credibility. They engaged in the same techniques to bolster Mr. Baldoni's credibility and suppress any negative content about him. On August 10th, the day after release of the film, Ms. Nathan's team reported that they had, quote, started to see shift on social, due largely to Jed and his team's efforts to shift the narrative, end quote, against Ms. Lively. And here's a text, I guess, from, looks like a group message to Jennifer Abel. It says, "Hi team, so far, extremely limited pickup on Daily Mail or Page 6. Oh, they love that the most. Daily Mail and Page 6. Those are the most salacious publications. Taken out. Does the National Enquirer even exist anymore? Or is it now all about the Daily Mail and Page 6? We'll continue to keep an eye out and send pieces as needed, but so far it's been steady coverage on pure speculation. We've also started to see a shift on social due largely to Jed and his team's efforts to shift the narrative towards shining a spotlight on Blake and Ryan. Again, we'll continue to send links and screenshots, but wanted to send an update in the meantime." 20. That same day, Ms. Nathan noted that as part of this shift, the majority of socials are so pro-Justin, and I don't even agree with half of them, LOL. From Melissa to Jennifer is the text that I just read to you. This is October 8th of 2024. So this is not that long ago. A little over 60 days ago. 21. Ms. Nathan then bragged to Ms. Abel that Mr. Baldoni doesn't realize how lucky he is right now, by which they were referring to their successful efforts to shut down stories that would have revealed how Mr. Baldoni's behavior, including sexual connotations on set, had made cast and crew beyond Ms. Lively uncomfortable. It wasn't just her. Melissa to Jennifer, he doesn't realize how lucky he is right now. We need to press on him just how effing lucky. The whispering in the ear, the sexual connotations like Jesus effing Christ, other members feeling uncomfortable watching it. I mean, there is just so much. 22. Less than 1 week later, they again bragged about how they had shut down stories regarding HR complaints on set. On August 15th, 2024, Melissa Nathan remarked that this went so well, it was genius. So, okay, we have the 4 majors standing down on HR complaint. Melissa to Jennifer, Jen, this went so well, I'm effing dying. I have to call you later in a bit and tell you how this went. It was genius. Melissa to Jennifer. So, okay, we have the 4 majors standing down on HR complaint. I think we are fine on that bit. There's the receipts. Oh, you know what? The date is like backwards. So this was from August 10th, not October 8th, August 10th. And then this is from August 15th. My mistake. 23. On August 16th, Ms. Nathan circulated a Daily Mail article entitled String of Hard to Watch Videos that have surfaced following tone-deaf Q&A to promote It Ends With Us could tarnish 36-year-old star's golden Hollywood image for good. To which Ms. Abel responded, "Wow, you really outdid yourself with this piece." And Miss Nathan replied, "That's why you hired me, right? I'm the best." Oops. And here's the article from the Daily Mail. Is Blake Lively set to be canceled? Exactly what I just said. And there's more messages between Melissa and Jennifer. One is the link to the article. And then Jennifer says, "Wow, you really outdid yourself with this piece. That's why you hired me, right? I'm the best." "24. As their own words reveal, the purpose of this social manipulation plan was twofold. It aimed to both A, conceal the pattern of harassment and other misconduct by Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and Wayfarer, and B, retaliate against Ms. Lively by battering her image, harming her businesses, and causing her and her family severe emotional harm. Millions of people, including many reporters and influencers who saw these planted stories, social media posts, and other online content, had no idea they were unwitting consumers of a crisis PR, astroturfing, and digital retaliation campaign created and funded by Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer to hurt Ms. Lively. That is precisely the goal of an astroturfing campaign, to light the fire and continue to stoke conversation secretly, blurring the line between authentic and manufactured content and creating viral public takedowns. 25. As laid out in this complaint, the Baldoni Wayfarer led public attack of Ms. Lively's of Ms. Lively was all right, back to one. Here we go. As laid out in this complaint, the Baldoni Wayfarer-led public attack of Ms. Lively was the intended result of a carefully crafted, coordinated, and resourced retaliatory scheme to silence her and others from speaking out about the hostile environment that Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath created. As such, it was not only unconscionable and a breach of contract, but also illegal under both state and federal law. Ms. Lively brings this action to hold Wayfarer and its leaders, Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and Mr. Sarowitz, accountable for the ongoing retaliation threats and harm they have caused Ms. Lively, other cast and crew, and all of their families. Footnote 5. Ms. Lively is informed and believes that Mr. Baldoni and his associates have additional astroturfing plans that they have prepared and are ready to launch at a moment's notice. Factual background. A. Justin Baldoni and Jamey Heath of Wayfarer engage in appropriate and unwelcome behavior toward Ms. Lively and others on the set of It Ends With Us. 26. Mr. Baldoni launched Wayfarer Studios along with Mr. Sarowitz in 2020. Mr. Heath serves as Wayfarer's CEO. Mr. Sarowitz is the leading financier of Wayfarer, and he, Mr. Heath, and Mr. Baldoni are close personal friends. Under the Wayfarer banner, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath have many platforms, including the Man Enough podcast. Anybody listen to that? The Man Enough podcast, which they co-host. Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath have positioned Wayfarer as a male feminist platform that explores gender roles, dismantles toxic masculinity, and creates a safer and judgment-free society for women. Yes, Leslie, you're exactly right. Let me get this straight. She tried to address the problems during production, and then they still were dicks after it wrapped. Yeah, and here's the thing. Also, I saw something go by here that said, why did her husband allow her to keep going on with production if, he knew about it? She's abiding by her contract, right? She's trying to work it out. Had she left, they could have sued her for breach of contract, right? So she's trying to do the right thing and trying to work it out here and have all these meetings and get all these safeguards in place and protections in place for not just her, but for other women so that they can finish filming, so that they can get done and wrap. And then after they wrap, and now they're starting to go on the press junket for the film, she's also contractually obligated to promote the film according to the talking points that we're going to look at later. And then he starts this campaign against her because he doesn't want her speaking up about his behavior on set and all of these other things that we've already read about. And because people unfollowed him on socials. Hmm. KPT said, this is disgusting. People need to stop being evil. Right? Leah says, my mom always told me that there was two types of women, catty biatches and the victims of catty biatches. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Hope. Oh, thanks. Hope says she thinks I would have been great in this movie. Thank you. And thank you, Goodmans, for gifting a membership and whoever was randomly selected by YouTube to receive it. Welcome. And Sherry, Sunday super chat. Just cuz. Thanks, Sherry. Thanks for the 5. I appreciate you. Okay. Moving on. Mel Stiller says, I've been around the proverbial block a few times, and I know from personal experience that women have the potential to be extremely manipulative. My comment is not directed at anyone in particular. Rubber Duck around amok says, so abusive men made a movie about sex abuse and then abused the female. This is evil. Boston Mass 781 said, I didn't know there were professional teams hired to smear and tarnish brands. That liability insurance must be through the roof. Dominique says the Daily Mail makes up stuff daily. Well, a lot of these PR teams are hired to plant that stuff, right? Seemingly. Hi, Sherry. Opened YouTube and saw me. Not familiar with the case. This is based on the movie It Ends With Us. It's on Netflix right now. You can watch it. It's what happened to Blake Lively behind the scenes, and then what she's alleging happened to her during the promotion of the film and after the promotion of the film. And all of these allegations have receipts attached to them. This is a complaint that she filed against her co-star producer, the production company, and others. Okay. Hang on for 1 second. Yes, it absolutely does, Ann Smith. Doesn't it make you wonder how much social media users are being brainwashed? Yep. I say this all the time. Delete Twitter, delete Facebook. Your life will be so much better for it. So much better. Anybody watch that Man Enough podcast or listen to it? I don't know if it's audio only. I don't know. I've never heard of it. Okay. Here we go. We are up to paragraph 27, I think. Yeah. Mr. Baldoni serves not only as the co-founder and co-chairman of the studio that financed and ran production on It Ends With Us, he also served as director, executive producer, and co-lead actor playing the role of Ryle Kincaid. As studio head and director, all actors, crew, and staff on the film, including Ms. Lively, answered to Mr. Baldoni. In his words, he was the leader who sat at the top of the totem pole. Oh. While Sony was the distributor releasing the film, Wayfarer was responsible for the production, and Wayfarer was led by Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. 28. Production of the film began in early May of 2023 and lasted until it was suspended in mid-June of 2023 due to the Writers Guild of America strike. During that time, Ms. Lively and other cast and crew experienced invasive, unwelcome, unprofessional, and sexually inappropriate behavior by Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath. Because Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath held all leadership positions on the production, they answered to no one and brushed off or ignored the concerns Ms. Lively and others expressed. She wasn't the only one complaining. A. Mr. Baldoni ignored well-established industry protocols in filming intimate scenes and exploited the lack of controls on set to behave inappropriately. 30. Wayfarer failed to adhere to guild rules, as well as Ms. Lively's contract and standard industry safety protocols with respect to nudity and intimate scenes, which the Screen Actors Guild and the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, known as SAG-AFTRA, acknowledges, quote, place performers in uniquely vulnerable situations. Footnote 6. Quick guide for scenes involving nudity and simulated S. And here's a link to the SAG-AFTRA quick guide. Such safeguards ignored by Wayfarer include providing performers with appropriate notice of nudity and simulated S and ensuring that consent is given free of pressure or coercion. Signed nudity riders are in place, spelling out the parameters of nudity or simulated S scenes. Safe and secure working conditions that are not detrimental to a performer's health, safety, morals, and career. Footnote 7. And the use of intimacy coordinators to observe intimate scenes. I mean, this is like basic stuff, but apparently he thought he didn't need to do it. Number 7. It goes back to that same article that is linked here. 31. Without these protections in place, Mr. Baldoni improvised physical intimacy that had not been rehearsed, choreographed, or discussed with Ms. Lively, with no intimacy coordinator involved. For instance, Mr. Baldoni discreetly bit and sucked on Ms. Lively's lower lip during a scene in which he improvised numerous kisses on each take. Mr. Baldoni insisted on shooting the full scene over and over again, well beyond what would have been required on an ordinary set, without advance notice or consent. 32. On another occasion, Mr. Baldoni and Ms. Lively were filming a slow dance scene for a montage in which no sound was recorded. Mr. Baldoni chose to let the camera roll and have them perform the scene, but did not act in character as Ryle. Instead, he spoke to Ms. Lively out of character as himself. At one point, he leaned forward and slowly dragged his lips from her ear and down her neck as he said, "It smells so good." None of this was remotely in character or based on any dialogue in the script, and nothing needed to be said because, again, there was no sound. Mr. Baldoni was caressing. Oh, it says Mr. Lively. Oh, there's a typo. Should say Ms. Lively. With his mouth in a way that had nothing to do with their roles. When Ms. Lively later objected to this behavior, Mr. Baldoni's response was, "I'm not even attracted to you." Oh my God, as if that makes it okay. Oh, come on, man. Just trying to highlight that one little part. B. Mr. Baldoni inserted improvised, gratuitous, and Mr. Baldoni inserted it. Back to one. Mr. Baldoni inserted improvised gratuitous XS content and/or scenes involving nudity into the film, including for an underage character, in highly unsettling ways. Yeah, right, Team Brindley. Prove you're not attracted to her. None of your business. Settle down, Mr. Lively. Yep, old line road. He's not attracted to her. He just wanted to make her feel uncomfortable. So gross. Delana says loser has been doing this for years. Sounds like you know, Delana. Kate says it gives Weinstein vibes. Yep. So Weinstein didn't perform on camera. Correct. Thank you, Dominique. Usually they take everyone off set except who's needed, and it's meant to make the actor feel safe. Yeah. And every single move in these types of scenes are choreographed, orchestrated. There's supposed to be an intimacy coordinator there to make sure everyone feels comfortable. And scenes such as like this are highly choreographed. Every move is choreographed. B. I just read that. I'm not reading it again because it was a tongue twister. 33. After Ms. Lively signed on to the movie based on a draft of the script, Mr. Baldoni, without Ms. Lively's knowledge or consent, personally added graphic content, including a scene in which Ms. Lively was to have the big O on camera. 34. When Ms. Lively objected to these conditions, to these additions, Mr. Baldoni insisted he had added them because he was making the film, quote, through the female gaze, end quote. Although he agreed to remove the scenes, he made a last-ditch attempt to keep one in which the couple have the big O together on their wedding night, which he said was important to him because he and his partner do that simultaneously during the act. Mr. Baldoni then intrusively asked Ms. Lively whether she and her husband did that simultaneously during the act, which Ms. Lively found invasive and refused to discuss. Can you imagine? He's essentially her boss on this production, and he's asking her whether she and her husband, I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm. Trisha says, honestly, seems pretty typical that a movie about DV was directed by an alleged abuser. It would be funny if it wasn't so horrifying. Yeah. Amy says, I'm surprised she went through with that. She and her husband are super wealthy. It doesn't seem like she would have to take on a project she wasn't comfortable with. Yeah, well, that's the thing. She took it on. She signed on to a certain script, and then he changed it in the middle. Moving on. 35. On the day of shooting the scene in which Ms. Lively's character gives birth, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath suddenly pressured Ms. Lively to simulate a full nudity, despite no mention of nudity for this scene in her script. In the script. See, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. I don't know. I wonder if she called SAG and her agent. I don't know why this keeps doing this to me. Forget it. Or in previous creative discussions, Mr. Baldoni insisted to Ms. Lively that women give birth naked and that his wife had ripped her clothes off during labor. He claimed it was not normal for women to remain in their hospital gowns while giving birth. Ms. Lively disagreed, but felt forced into a compromise that she would be naked from below the chest down. Footnote 8. Generally, nudity below the waist in film utilizes a small piece of nude fabric glued around the female actor's parts to provide some minimal privacy without disturbing the shot, because that fabric is not able to have visible straps from profile camera angles. Yes, he was dropped yesterday by William Morris. That's funny because it's not, it's not funny for him, but coincidentally, guess who else is represented by William Morris? Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds. Yep, that's true. Right, Kate. It's not why she didn't leave. It's why she should have to. And here's the thing. When you're on a set like this, there are hundreds of people there. Hundreds of people. You walk off and that's how many people you're putting out of work that day. I mean, it's incredibly disrupted, right? Phoebe says, any lesser professional would have shouted this crap from the rooftops. This speaks to her professionalism, in my opinion. Yep. Shouldn't do it. Jennifer says, I didn't birth any of my children completely nude. LV says, Geek Speak, sorry, I'm not on Blake's side. This is a retroactive lawsuit after her pre-tour fell flat. That is only her fault. There should always be an intimacy coordinator. How is that Justin's fault? Sony, well, I mean, we're going to get more into this to see the campaign that they instituted. And by the way, the pre-tour, the publicity that they did for the film when it was released was based on very specific terms of a contract that it is attached to this complaint. And this isn't really a lawsuit yet. It's a complaint with the California Civil Rights Department. Jenna On Point says there were others on set that he did this to, and HR did nothing with the reported behavior. Right. Right. Sweet Woman says, has this guy been asleep for the past 15 years? Why would he think this behavior is acceptable? Listen, there's a lot of, people that just think they're never going to get caught. Look at that story that we're covering on the Anderson brothers. 20 years that was going on. They never got caught. This is not a new story in Hollywood. When the birth scene was filmed, wait, did we read footnote 8? Yeah, we did. When the birth scene was filmed, the set was chaotic, crowded, and utterly lacking in standard industry protection for filming nude scenes, such as choreographing the scene with an intimacy coordinator, having a signed nudity rider, or simply turning off the monitors so the scene was not broadcast to all crew on set and their personal phones and iPad. Mr. Heath and Mr. Baldoni also failed to close the set, allowing non-essential crew to pass through while Ms. Lively was mostly nude with her legs spread wide in stirrups and only a small piece of fabric covering her parts. Among the non-essential persons present that day was Wayfarer co-chairman Mr. Sarowitz, who flew in for one of his few set visits. Ms. Lively was not provided with anything to cover herself with between takes until after she had made multiple requests. Ms. Lively became even more alarmed when Mr. Baldoni introduced his best friend to play the role of the OBGYN, when ordinarily a small role of this nature would be filled by a local actor. Okay. So there's that. And this was filmed in New York. That's why I auditioned for it, because they wanted a New York actor. Yeah, can't make this up. You can't make this up. Right. She absolutely would have been sued for breach of contract if she walked off set. Can't make this up, guys. And also, what would that have done to her reputation then before they deliberately just tried to destroy it? Right? She would have been called a prima donna, a diva. Yep. Of course, breach of contract if you leave early. Yep. And listen, I don't know who this guy is really. Before this, I didn't watch Jane the Virgin. He was in some other things too, but she was the star of this movie. That was the draw, was Blake Lively. It wasn't him, I don't think. There were no other major stars in this. She was carrying this film. As me, and says, yep, and someone not that famous most likely wouldn't have spoken up out of fear for their career. but he hired his best friend to play the role of the OBGYN. Ms. Lively felt that the selection of Mr. Baldoni's friend for this intimate role, in which the actor's face and hands were in close proximity to her nearly nude parts for a birth scene, was invasive and humiliating. I don't know, women in the chat, would you feel that way? Would you feel that it was invasive and humiliating too? Look at this. Cass coming in with the Taylor Swift quotes. When it's burn the witch, they're shrieking. When the truth comes out, it's quiet. Right on, sister. "37. To add insult to injury, Mr. Heath approached Ms. Lively and her assistant on set and started playing a video of a fully nude woman with her legs spread apart. Ms. Lively thought he was showing her pee or pornography and stopped him. Mr. Heath explained that the video was his wife giving birth. As if that's any better. Ms. Lively was alarmed and asked Mr. Heath if his wife knew he was sharing the video, to which he replied, "She isn't weird about this stuff." As if Ms. Lively was weird for not welcoming it. Ms. Lively and her assistant excused themselves, stunned that Mr. Heath had shown them a nude video. Kate says, as most women know, if you've ever had to work with these types of men, you often go along to get along, right? I represented many women who worked on Wall Street back in the day, where they were usually the only women in the office. Many women who worked for mortgage companies and the like, banking firms. You know, it's just locker room talk. There's also legal protections against that kind of behavior in the workplace. It's called hostile work environment. You know, and these are cases that I handled in, you know, the 2000s and the 90s. And that's how long the protections have been in place. 38. Mr. Baldoni added a detailed scene to the film in which the underage version of Ms. Lively's character, Lily, loses her virginity. In both the book and the script for the film, there was no sex scene. Instead, the details about this moment were left to the audience's imagination. But Mr. Baldoni added in considerable details, including both dialogue between young Lily and her boyfriend, Atlas, about the loss of her V, as well as a simulated sex scene in which Mr. Baldoni filmed and included in his initial cut of the film. A close-up of young Lily's face, accompanied by an audible gasp at the moment of earmuffs penetration. Ms. Lively was informed that when the scene was shot, after Mr. Baldoni called cut, he walked over to the actors and said, "I know I'm not supposed to say this, but that was hot. And did you two practice this before?" Okay, I'm going to point something else out. There was a lot of public. I remember the premiere. I remember when this premiere happened. And she had young Lily, the actress who played young Lily, very, very close to her, Blake did, the entire night. And people were saying, "Oh, she's so protective over this young actress who played herself." And maybe this is why. I'm just venturing a guess. See, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath discussed their personal experiences and previous corn addiction and tried to pressure Ms. Lively to reveal details about her intimate life. 39. During a car ride with Ms. Lively, her assistant and driver, Mr. Baldoni claimed to Ms. Lively that he had been SA'd by a former girlfriend, which he has since shared publicly. At the end of his story, Mr. Baldoni shared that it had caused him to re-examine his past. He then said, "Did I always ask for consent? No. Did I always listen when they said no? No." Mr. Baldoni claimed this was an example of how we all have things from which we can learn and grow. Ms. Lively was unsettled by Mr. Baldoni's suggestion that he had engaged in S-type conduct without consent. When Ms. Lively exited the car, her driver immediately remarked that he did not want Ms. Lively to be alone with Mr. Baldoni going forward. Well, seems that her driver is a witness to that conversation. Somebody said she could have filed this suit a year ago. The movie was just released over the summer, right? $40. On the first day of production, hold on one second. Un momento. All right, hold on. I got to respond to a kid. Hold on one second. All right. Right. BS Loving Life. The smear campaign ran this year. How could she file it a year ago? The texts are from August of 2024. Yep. And not to mention, it took them time to get all of this discovery, to get all the proof and the receipts. They're not just going to file some bogus complaint without having actual proof like some people do. On the first day of production, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath described their past S relationships to Ms. Lively, including that one of them used to hook up with a woman. Mr. Baldoni said that he had decided the woman wasn't the one, so then Mr. Heath had gotten together with her. Ms. Lively found this description of passing along a woman to be disrespectful and disturbing. I mean, those of you who are in the chat, I'm just going to break from this for a second to say, you know that I became a lawyer in the 90s when it was mostly a man's world. It still kind of largely is, but I was a woman in an industry at the time that was dominated by men. And I know that many of you are too, because you were also Gen X, and many of you are professional women who were in other industries that were also dominated by men. And it wouldn't be that unusual to hear something like this on any given day, maybe several times a day, but it's still going on in 2024. And it's kind of upsetting to me, disturbing and disappointing, because this is stuff that we had to deal with, in the 90s, and it's still going on. Because, like we say, sometimes people have no ramifications for their behavior and it just continues, right? Still a man's world. Preach, Gen X chick. We had to deal with it every single day. I mean, if that was the worst thing you heard in a day, it was like, okay, not such a bad day today, right? And then there was that whole Anita Hill case that came out with that judge talking about the hair on the can of Coke, remember? And that was like the first major case that ever came out about this kind of stuff. And it was kind of like, for those of us who lived in that world, we were like, oh, really? That's it? That's it? That's what that was about? Right? It's unfortunate that this is still going on, apparently. 41. Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath often spoke of their previous corn addiction. Mr. Baldoni would often reference corn to Miss Lively, hoping to shut the subject down. She said to him privately that she had never seen it. Later, when Mr. Baldoni was once again referencing his experiences with corn, he revealed in front of other cast and crew that Miss Lively had never seen it. Corn. I have to say these stupid words, but it's just the way YouTube is. And also, I know so many of you have your kids in the room and no headphones on, and it's Sunday, so hopefully not all of you are working, but some of you are probably at work. It was an incredible invasion of her privacy to discuss any aspect of her intimate life with the cast and crew, much less reveal something that she had only told Mr. Baldoni to try and get him to stop talking about the subject with her. The candy corn is a real problem. 42. Mr. Baldoni engaged in other behaviors that were shocking and emotionally distressing. For example, he claimed he could speak to the dead, and on several occasions told her that he had spoken to her dead father. It was off-putting and violative for Mr. Baldoni to claim a personal relationship with her recently deceased father. Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath were also constantly hugging and touching cast and crew. When Ms. Lively or others avoided this touching, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath would retaliate by becoming irritated, cold, and uncollaborative. The result was an unwelcoming and mercurial environment for Ms. Lively, her employees, and others on set. Yeah, thank you, Katie K. He's a sicko. I prefer we say corn. I detest the entire industry, and that softens the blow for me. Mr. Baldoni objectified Ms. Lively and other women by commenting on or criticizing their bodies as sex objects. Mr. Baldoni often referred to women in the workplace as sexy. When they expressed discomfort, Mr. Baldoni would deflect or try to pass it off, which undermined Ms. Lively and others' concerns. For example, on one occasion that Ms. Lively observed, he told a female cast member that her leather pants looked sexy when she arrived to the set. When she rebuffed his comment because she was uncomfortable, rather than apologizing, he brushed it off with, "I can say that because my wife is here today." Ms. Lively felt embarrassed witnessing this kind of commentary, as did others. "44. On another day, Ms. Lively wore a low-cut dress to facilitate breastfeeding, but had it covered up with a coat. When the jacket briefly popped open at one point to reveal the dress, Mr. Baldoni commented about how much he liked her outfit, which flustered Ms. Lively. Later that day, Mr. Baldoni pressured Ms. Lively, who was in her pre-approved wardrobe, to remove her coat in front of the crew and multiple background actors in a packed bar. He said he wanted to see her onesie under the coat because it was zipped low to reveal her lace bra. Consistent with past practice, he said, "I think you look sexy," in a tone that made her feel ogled and exposed. With other female cast present, she said, "That's not what I'm going for." He bristled and replied, "I'm sorry, hot." Deeply uncomfortable, Ms. Lively said, "Not that either." Mr. Baldoni responded sarcastically, "I guess I missed the HR meeting," and walked away. Another woman on the production spoke to Ms. Lively afterward to offer empathy and to share her own similar experiences with Mr. Baldoni, commenting about her in sexual terms. Right. Katie Gay said, "I bet she vented to Ryan Reynolds, but he knows the ramifications of making any turbulent confrontational moves on a movie set. She probably assured him she was managing it." Yep. Blessed in Texas is "Now I understand why Colleen Hoover, author of the book, didn't appear with Justin Baldoni. And now we can also understand why those press tours were so uncomfortable and the premiere of that film was so uncomfortable and how nobody would be in pictures with him." Susie Q says, "Definitely more complaints coming on this guy." Sometimes what it takes is for one person, one powerful person, one famous person to step up and start talking, and it gives other women the courage to do it. Yeah, that's right. Athena, even as an attorney, you still have to put up with bias and sexism 100%. The next chick said that Colleen Hoover has publicly come out in support of Blake. Good. Hi, Stephanie. Catching up from the beginning after my Eagles losing. I'm sorry. So grateful you're doing this. I would not watch anybody else describe this. Thank you. Right. Right. She was breastfeeding her own child. She was postpartum at the time. She thinks she has 4 kids now. She was trying to feed her child, Old Line Red says, and he made it icky for her. What a tool. Mm-hmm. Yep. Wynox says, okay, if she has witnesses for that, we have to embrace her for not being scared and coming out and bringing it all to light. And you know what? She didn't do it. She didn't do it during the press junket for the film. And I give her a lot of credit for holding off and waiting. She could have destroyed this movie. This movie has made something like over $350 million. She could have destroyed it when all this hatred and vitriol was coming at her through the internet. She didn't. She waited. Right. And Blessed says, sadly, I fell for a PR campaign against Blake on YouTube. Did she have number 5 on the way? Is she pregnant again? Mary F. and Poppin? Is she pregnant again? I don't know that I knew that. Not that I follow celebrity gossip all the time, but Kate wants to know, can he lose any of his clout with SAG-AFTRA? Well, he just got dropped by William Morris yesterday. All right, moving on. #45. As a result of Mr. Baldoni's behavior, on May 29th, 2023, another cast member lodged a sexual harassment complaint about Mr. Baldoni's gross and unwanted comments towards her and others. While on the one hand, Mr. Baldoni was objectifying Ms. Lively as a sex object, on the other hand, he went out of his way to message criticisms of her age and weight, neither of which she could change during filming. On the second day of filming, for example, Mr. Baldoni made the rest of the cast and crew wait for hours while he cried in Ms. Lively's dressing room, claiming social media commenters were saying that Ms. Lively looked old and unattractive based on paparazzi photos from the set. Wow. On the second day of filming, he went in there to tell her all the mean things that people on the internet were saying about her. Can you say coercive control? That's disgusting behavior. Thank you, Jacqueline. I stand for Blake and all of us women who had to put up with men's bull ducking stuff. We just try and keep it the curse words kind of like we say duck instead of the F word because a lot of people have kids and in the room when they're listening. And so have their headphones off. And I just kind of do that as a courtesy. So there's that. Yeah, exactly, Leslie. Asian weight pisses me off so ducking much. She's a goddess. Ipsy Dixit, my favorite Latin term. It's grooming. Mm-hmm. Chicago Cubby Girl says, in what world is it harassment to show a close associate video of your child's birth, especially in a movie that features childbirth? I'm going to say 100% that is harassment. He's the boss. She's the employee. I find it, I mean, listen, there could be people that are on your side. I think that is horrific. Absolutely horrific. To show your wife giving birth to the star of your film? Does anybody think this is harassment besides me? Okay. In what world is it not, says Kate. Thank you, Marcia. Sexual harassment and retaliation claims must go through an administrative process before a lawsuit can be filed, right? This is the first step. Also, in some states like California does have anti-SLAPP legislation requiring frivolous lawsuits to be dismissed. Oh, Sweetie No says, of course it's wildly Unsolicited, it is completely inappropriate. Would you ever say to him, oh, hey, give a video of your wife giving birth that I could take a look at? Because, she's given birth 4 times. I'm pretty sure she knows what it looks like. Okay. She tried to reassure him that she should look authentic in the scenes depicted in the photos, which were just after her character had been abused by her fictional husband rather than hot. Mr. Baldoni, however, appeared focused on Ms. Lively's sexual appeal above all else. His lengthy outburst caused a delay in shooting, forcing an emotional scene to be shot haphazardly. I'm going to point out, for those of you who watched the movie, that she was made to intentionally, like the wardrobe that they put her in was frumpy, I thought. They gave her like red frizzy hair. I don't know why they wanted her to look like that. It looked nothing like the character I had in my head from the book. I mean, she did have red hair in the book, but it's still. Bizarre. 47. To make matters worse, when Ms. Lively tried to have a meeting with Mr. Heath and the other producers to discuss Mr. Baldoni's unprofessional behavior described above, that meeting turned into yet another violation. Rather than an ordinary meeting, time and place, Mr. Heath arrived unannounced at Ms. Lively's hair and makeup trailer while she was topless and having body makeup removed by a makeup artist. Wow. Just barge on in, Heath. Ms. Lively told Mr. Heath that she was almost done and they could meet once she was clothed. Mr. Heath, however, insisted that if she didn't allow him into her trailer to speak with him at that moment, there would be no meeting with the other producers. Miss Lively reluctantly agreed, but asked that Mr. Heath keep his back turned. A few minutes into the conversation, Ms. Lively noticed that Mr. Heath was staring directly at her while she was topless. When she called him out, Mr. Heath brushed it off as a habit of wanting to look at a person while speaking to them. Ms. Lively and her hair and makeup artist were all deeply disturbed by this interaction on just the second day of filming. Again, witnesses. 48. Throughout filming, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath invaded Ms. Lively's privacy by entering her makeup trailer uninvited while she was undressed, including when she was breastfeeding her infant child. Ms. Lively often had to work while breastfeeding, which she felt comfortable doing so long as she was given the time and space to cover herself. She did this frequently because she was not given breaks to feed her baby. Number 9, we'll go to that in a second. But Ms. Lively did not expect or consent to anyone entering her private spaces while topless, exposed, and vulnerable with her newborn, or during body makeup application or removal. Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath showed a shocking lack of boundaries by invading her personal space while she was undressed and vulnerable. This is footnote 9, which says, Ms. Lively was not given proper lactation breaks by Wayfarer during filming, which sometimes stretched into 6 hours without a break. When filming finally broke, Ms. Lively would have to run to her trailer to breastfeed. The lack of accommodation for her need to express milk caused her to develop painful mastitis. Has anyone had mastitis? Kurt, I don't expect you to understand this, but women who have breastfed or pumped while at the workplace, you know what it's like to go too long and how painful that can be? I don't know how far postpartum she was exactly when this was happening, but they're supposed to give accommodations for that, and that's revolting to me. Susie, oh, no way bragging. Oh, see, I know. It happened in the corporate world. Yep, hurts so much. Oh, yep, as multiple times. Yes, ouch, ouch. Yes, of course, yes, it's very painful. Pain, pain, pain. Andrew says, shows how the media can ruin you. That's why I don't believe the Jay-Z stuff. No evidence. Polly Claire says, I mean, not allowing breaks for 6 hours is illegal in most places. Yeah. Undecorated dude in the chat says this guy's a creep. Yeah, it's awful. No, Wine Yogi, you know what? If I was on set and I was there and I was playing her mom, you know me, I cannot keep my mouth shut. Like, I wouldn't care. I'm not Blake Lively. I'm not an A-list actor. I've been in some stuff that's been on, you might catch some of you have seen me in like reruns of stuff that's on Discovery ID. I played a serial killer's wife one time, and I've been in a lot of other stuff that went to film festivals, but nothing like in a theater like this one was. I wouldn't have been able to keep my mouth shut. I would have spoken up. Would have been great. Somebody said in here also, like, she's an A-list actor. Imagine what he did to other people. '49. Mr. Baldoni also routinely degraded Ms. Lively by finding back-channel ways of criticizing her body and weight. A few weeks before filming began, and less than 4 months after Ms. Lively had given birth to her fourth child. Okay, so she was like 4 months postpartum, less than 4 months. Ms. Lively was humiliated to learn that Mr. Baldoni secretly called her fitness trainer without her knowledge or permission and implied that he wanted her to lose weight in 2 weeks. Mr. Baldoni told the trainer that he had asked because he was concerned about having to pick Ms. Lively up in a scene for the movie. There was no such scene. Footnote 10. I mean, if you read the hype on this and you read the press on this, a lot of people were like, well, he had to know if he had to pick her up. He had to know how much she weighed. It's cool. It's cool. He's allowed to ask that. Apparently, there wasn't any such scene because footnote says that 10 says in later text messages sent to his team, Mr. Baldoni referred to Ms. Lively's trainer as a damn spy and sought to plant stories to portray his concerns as being motivated by his lower back pain. That's right. He did. He said, I have back pain. And so, oops. I needed to know how much she weighed because I had to pick her up. Oops. '50, when Ms. Lively caught strep throat, Mr. Baldoni offered as a gift to connect her with an expert he had on retainer to help her with probiotics and combat the sickness. When Ms. Lively went to fill out the privacy forms, she saw the expert was not what Mr. Baldoni had represented her to be, but was instead a weight loss specialist. I mean, also, as you know, my women in the chat who have breastfed or pumped, you're not supposed to be losing weight when you're breastfeeding. It's very important to eat. It's very important. Although breastfeeding does help you lose weight faster, you're not supposed to be on some kind of weird diet to lose weight. And how about this? If you weren't happy with her weight, how about you wait until she's a little more than 4 months postpartum to finish the rest of the film? Because the film was already delayed once because of the writer's strike, right? Oh, you know what? I just have to redact some of the words on this page because there's that C word again that the YouTube doesn't like. So hold on. The YouTube gods don't like it. So give me a second. Talk amongst yourselves for a second. Okay. Ms. Lively felt once again that Mr. Baldoni was shaming her for her body and weight. '51. Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath failed to implement C protocols. That's the thing that caused the panty. When there was a C outbreak on set, Ms. Lively was told by another producer that because Wayfarer did not have insurance coverage for C, Baldoni and Mr. Heath deliberately withheld from Ms. Lively that she had been exposed to C. Both Ms. Lively and her infant child contracted C from the outbreak. Oh, isn't that nice? Wow. Just when you thought it couldn't get any worse. B. Ms. Lively and others lodged grievances regarding the conduct of Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath, which Wayfarer declines to investigate. 52. As the studio producing the film, Wayfarer was the employer of all the cast and crew and was thus responsible for ensuring workplace safety on set. However, Wayfarer failed to provide Ms. Lively with an even rudimentary employment protections, such as an employee handbook, sexual harassment policy, information, or any training on sexual harassment, discrimination, or respectful workplace expectations. 54. Wayfarer also failed to provide Ms. Lively information about the process and procedure for filing human resources complaints. As the producer and owner of the film, Wayfarer was legally obligated to address HR-related concerns or complaints. To Ms. Lively's knowledge, however, Wayfarer lacked any process for responding to complaints about its leadership, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath, who plainly were not going to investigate themselves. It's like the fox guarding the hen house. On May 26, 2023, Ms. Lively told a representative of Sony that she wanted to file an HR complaint about Mr. Baldoni's and Mr. Heath's misconduct. The Sony representative told Ms. Lively that Sony, as the distributor of the film, was not empowered to control Mr. Baldoni or Mr. Heath's behavior on set, and that such concerns must be raised with Wayfarer, the studio responsible for the production. So that was all the way back in May 2023. Wayfarer, Mr. Baldoni, and Mr. Heath received or were aware of a number of HR grievances regarding their conduct. For example, on the first day of filming, while attempting to hug Miss Lively's employee, Mr. Heath said, "I don't even know if we're allowed to do this. It's day one and we have an HR report already." Additionally, early in the production, another actress made a complaint about Mr. Baldoni's comments on her appearance. Mr. Baldoni expressly acknowledged her concerns in writing, stating he would adjust accordingly. Yet on June 8th of 2023, that actress informed Ms. Lively that outside of anything in a scene, I actually cannot talk to Justin at all. Mr. Baldoni later expressed suspicion regarding Ms. Lively's friendship with this actress, as if they were colluding against him. As described above, Ms. Lively and others attempted to raise concerns to Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath regarding certain of the conduct described above during filming, but they were not addressed given the futility of asking Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath how to address their own behavior. After unsuccessfully attempting to raise concerns with Sony, Ms. Lively expressly told Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath that there were serious HR problems on set. Mr. Heath responded that they knew, implying that someone had mentioned to them that Ms. Lively had raised concerns. In response, Mr. Heath told Ms. Lively that he thought she had wanted to see the nude video of his wife. In the same conversation, when Ms. Lively expressed her upset, Mr. Heath and Mr. Baldoni had hidden the fact that she had been exposed to a C outbreak on set from which she and her infant contracted it. Instead of acknowledging responsibility and committing to safety moving forward, they expressed upset over production days missed and resulting costs. Despite receiving multiple detailed reports by Ms. Lively and others about Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath's misconduct, Wayfarer failed to investigate those reports or to otherwise institute protections for the cast. This is so even though the incidents discussed above, among others, did not take place in isolation, and many, if not all, were witnessed by others. By these and other behaviors, Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and Wayfarer engaged in harassing conduct and failed their obligations to investigate complaints of workplace harassment, to prevent inappropriate and harassing behaviors on set, and to provide avenues for cast and crew members to safely raise concerns to neutral parties so they could be investigated and appropriately addressed. I mean, anybody in the chat who works in the business knows for how long productions shut down during the panty and after, and the strict protocols that were on set for taking temperatures and testing every single person who was on set. And then there were people in different zones, zone A, zone B, zone C, who could only work. I mean, the protocols that were put in place during that time were so strict. Everything shut down for so long. And then the actor strike, and then the writer strike. And there was so much damage already to the industry that it's unbelievable that she contracted the C, and her child did. And again, I wonder if she complained to SAG. Wow. But again, she's damned if she does, and she's damned if she doesn't, right? Right. Wow. The parties negotiated a contract rider regarding Mr. Baldoni's and Mr. Heath's conduct on the set of It Ends With Us. On May 2nd of 2023, the Writers Guild of America, made up of 2 American labor unions representing more than 16,000 writers in film, television, radio, and online media, went on strike in connection with a labor dispute with the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers. Yeah, so this happened right in May 2023. The film temporarily halted production in June of 2023 as a result of the WGA picketing. On June 15th, 2023, Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni announced the continued halted production of the film due to the ongoing WGA strike and the lost days experienced from picketing. While the WGA strike was underway, on July 14th of 2023, the American Actors Union, known as SAG-AFTRA, a labor union that represents about 160,000 people in the entertainment industry, including actors, recording artists, radio personalities, and other media professionals, began to strike due to a labor dispute with the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers. So the writer strike happened in May, and the actors went on strike in July. The WGA strike ended on September 27th, 2023. And the SAG-AFTRA strike ended on November 9th of 2023. But both sides supported each other in their strike, and neither would cross either's picket lines, by the way. Before returning to production, Ms. Lively attempted to address and resolve the problems on set and requested that Wayfarer agree to address the conditions described above. On November 9th of 2023, Ms. Lively's attorneys provided Wayfarer's attorney with a document entitled Protections for Return to Production, attached here too as Exhibit A. In conveying the protections for return to production document, Ms. Lively requested that Wayfarer agree to implement a plan that would enable everyone to return to work and complete the film with adequate protections to ensure a safe set moving forward. On November 11th, 2023, counsel for Wayfarer indicated that Wayfarer, Sony, and production respectfully acknowledge that your client has concerns regarding the safety, professionalism, and workplace culture. Although our perspective differs in many aspects, ensuring a safe environment for all involved is paramount, irrespective of differing viewpoints. Regarding your outlined requests, we find most of them not only reasonable, but also essential for the benefit of all parties involved. On November 15th of 2023, Wayfarer, through It Ends With Us Movie, LLC, agreed to the terms in the contractual rider executed on January 19th, 2024, and attached here too as Exhibit B. Oops. Among the contract rider's provisions. A, the first provision required that an intimacy coordinator must be present at all times when Miss Lively is on set. The second provision required that with respect to artist, any and all rehearsal, filming, reviewing of video playback or dailies, and any other interaction with any scene involving simulated nudity and or partial nudity shall be restricted to those persons with essential business reasons for being present. Essential personnel, as approved by Ms. Lively and Todd Black, as further described in the nudity rider, attached to Schedule 1, the nudity rider. The third provision required that there is to be no spontaneous improvising of any scenes involving intimate physical touching, simulated or nudity with respect to Ms. Lively. Scenes involving Ms. Lively that involves kissing, depictions of intercourse, or any other intimate physical touching must be contained in the screenplay, i.e. the most up-to-date draft approved by Ms. Lively in writing, choreographed in advance of the presence of the intimacy coordinator, and may only proceed as choreographed with the consent of all participants in advance. D, the fourth provision required that physical touching and or comments on Ms. Lively's physical appearance must only be done and made in connection with the character and scene work, not as to Ms. Lively personally, except as written into the screenplay or as strictly required in connection with makeup or costume prep. There's to be no physical touching, including hugging of Ms. Lively, her on-set personnel, and or her employees. I mean, shouldn't that just be basic? How about you just don't touch anybody or hug anybody? How about that? Male or female? The fifth provision required that there are to be no discussions with Ms. Lively of personal experiences with or nudity, including as it relates to conduct with spouses or others. Sixth provision required that no one will enter, attempt to enter, interrupt, pressure, or request entrance to Ms. Lively's trailer while she is in a state of undress for any reason. Again, that should also be pretty basic. It's a shame that they had to put all this stuff in writing. The seventh provision required that there shall be no rehearsal or filming of Ms. Lively, including Ms. Lively's approved body double, of any nudity, partial nudity, and or simulated except as expressly permitted in accordance with the nudity rider. Any such footage of Ms. Lively or Ms. Lively's body double previously shot without the nudity rider in place may not be used without Ms. Lively's and her legal representative's prior written consent. I mean, I love here how she's sticking up also for her body double, because body doubles don't make a lot of money. Just like extras or background on set do not make a lot of money. I think the non-union background rate may have gone up a little bit, is something like $160 a day, which could be a 10-hour day. And maybe the SAG rate for background is double that, like $320 a day. Which, by the way, is a great job if you have a kid like who goes to college in California or New York. Great way to make some extra money because you get 3 hots. You get 3 hots and you get to be on scene. You get fed all day. And you get to be on a real movie set. And, you know, it's a hard way to make a living. But for, you know, college students, it's an interesting way to make some extra money. Although now with AI, they're making a lot of background actors agree to be scanned and sign off on having their likeness used in any movie ever in perpetuity forever. That's why Justine Bateman is out there, you know, really like yelling as loud as she can about AI and how there's no protection for actors, especially also voice actors. Interesting, right? But here she is, and doesn't that go to her character too, that she's speaking up for her body double and also the girl who played young Lily in the movie. H, the 10th provision required that there shall be no retaliation of any kind against Miss Lively for raising concerns about the conduct described in this letter or for these requirements. Any change Changes in attitude. Oh, that's a Jimmy Buffett song. You guys know that? Changes in attitude, changes in attitude. Any changes in attitude, sarcasm, marginalization, or other negative behavior, either on set or otherwise, including during publicity and promotional work, as a result of these requests, is retaliatory and unacceptable and will be met with immediate action. The 12th provision required that Wayfarer will engage an additional experienced A-level producer, approved by Ms. Lively. And then it said Todd Black is hereby approved to actively supervise the production, including monitoring the safety of the cast and crew, ensuring compliance with the schedule, and overseeing logistics, problem solving, and creative issues, provided that the company shall have the right to approve the agreement with the approved producer. I don't know why that's flickering like that. The 15th provision required that any rehearsal or shooting involving Miss Lively or any other performer depicting the character of Lily, young Lily, that involves nudity, including partial nudity or simulated sex, must be conducted strictly in accordance with the nudity rider and must adhere to the approved script. The 16th provision provided that any and all day players that participate in any way in scenes with Miss Lively involving nudity, partial nudity, and or simulated S must be engaged through customary industry talent agencies, not through personal connections of the director and or producer, right? Meaning, you can't hire your friend to come in here and play my OBGYN like you did last time. The 17th provision required that at Ms. Lively's election, an all-hands in-person meeting before production resumes will include the director, the existing producers, the Sony representative, the approved producer, Ms. Lively, and Ms. Lively's designated representatives to confirm and approve a plan for implementation of the above that will be adhered to for the physical and emotional safety of Ms. Lively, her employees, and all cast and crew moving forward. The all-hands in-person meeting provided for in the contract rider occurred on January 4th, 2024, before production resumed. And that's where this complaint started, on January 4th, 2024. As described above. The meeting was attended by Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, producer Alex Sachs, producer Todd Black, and Sony's Ange Giannetti, as well as Ms. Lively and her husband, who attended at Ms. Lively's request as another designated representative, as provided for in the contract, given the subject matter of the meeting. At the January 4th meeting, 2024 meeting, the parties discussed a list of 20 examples of the behaviors that gave rise to the contract writer from her contemporaneous notes. These behaviors are listed in full earlier in this complaint at paragraph 3. Neither Mr. Baldoni nor Mr. Heath denied the veracity of Ms. Lively's examples. Ms. Lively requested that Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath agree that such behaviors would no longer take place as memorialized in the language of the writer, and Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath agreed. D. Production concluded and Ms. Lively and other cast and crew promoted the film according to the marketing plan. Production of the film resumed on January 5th, 2024, and concluded on February 9th of 2024. In connection with the film's public release, Ms. Lively and the rest of the cast actively promoted the film in accordance with the marketing plan for the film, attached here too as Exhibit C. Wayfarer had embraced and on information and belief had formally approved of this marketing plan. The marketing plan and related talking points expressly required Ms. Lively, as well as other cast and crew engaged in promotional activities, to, quote, focus more on her character's strength and resilience as opposed to describing the film as a story about DV, and to avoid talking about this film that makes it feel sad or heavy. It's a story of hope. As detailed above, Ms. Lively and fellow cast members promoted the film in accordance with the talking points and marketing plan during appearances on red carpets, interviews, press junkets, fan events, and pop-up experiences leading up to the film's release. Mr. Baldoni publicly embraced the marketing plan In early May of 2024, Mr. Baldoni appeared at a floral-themed trailer launch event, which included him personally making flower bouquets for influencers, a photo opportunity, and film-branded latte art. As late as July 25th, 2024, Mr. Baldoni appeared at a pop-up of Lily Bloom's flower shop in Century City, California, where he held a long stem rose microphone and playfully gave tours of the shop to influencers. In a TikTok interview posted that day, Mr. Baldoni excitedly walks through the pop-up and states that he will be giving tours all day, every day, until August 9th. And then there's a link to a TikTok video. I don't know what this is. I guess this is a screenshot from the TikTok video. In advance of the release of the film, nearly all cast members chose to appear in public separately from Mr. Baldoni, given his on-set behavior. Mr. Baldoni became concerned that the public would discover that something is much bigger under the surface. On Information and Belief, alluding to the complaints lodged by Ms. Lively and others. At that point, Mr. Baldoni pivoted away from the film's marketing plan to explain his absence from the rest of the cast. He shifted his focus away from a message of female triumph to instead capitalize on female trauma. After the film's premiere, Mr. Baldoni changed his Instagram profile, canceled lighthearted social media posts, and instructed his team to look for survivors' reactions and support, all in an effort to quickly shift his own public narrative to focus solely on survivors and DV organizations. Yeah, thanks, Gracewater. Hit the thumbs up button, everybody. It helps that YouTube algorithm. Helps the algorithm. Right? Ms. Abel cautioned Mr. Baldoni that this shift might be too drastic too soon. Still, Mr. Baldoni insisted on a TikTok strategy and that his promotional activities for the film should seek to amplify what he described as survivor content. Here's a screenshot of a text message from Justin to Jennifer. Hey, just landed. What is the TikTok strategy? I'd like you guys to start posting me only talking about DV and clips and why this movie is so important. The team followed Mr. Baldoni's instruction. For her part, Ms. Abel concluded, it doesn't feel performative now that you've done major substantial press on the topic. On August 11th, 2024, Ms. Abel laid out a posting timeline to Mr. Baldoni and the team stating, theater surprise, and then I think survivor content first thing tomorrow morning, AM, which then will be helpful for news cycle. This is interesting because somebody asked me if I watched his TED Talk, and I didn't, but I wonder if anybody has access to the Google, if they can tell me when his TED Talk came out. I need to go back and watch the movie tonight on Netflix. By repositioning Mr. Baldoni's marketing of the film on Information and Belief, Mr. Baldoni hoped to create the false impression that he had chosen not to appear alongside other cast members. Mr. Baldoni directed his team to share on his public Instagram feed the private messages he had received from survivors sharing their stories of domestic violence with him. Mr. Baldoni's team talked him out of this idea, writing that they do not recommend using private DMs as content. 2017 was his TED Talk. Thank you. Thanks, Kristen. Thanks, Alex. And what is his, what was the topic of it? Do you guys know? Ambling Soul, I would be interested in a timeline visualization of all these things. Me too. We need somebody who knows how to make a chart. Can somebody make a chart? Brandy Churchwell needs to come in and make a chart. Oh my God. This is interesting. True lifestyles. We're learning about what goes on in behind the scenes in the wheels of a major PR campaign. Costs lots of money. Yeah, we all have to go watch it again after this, and then we can come back and talk about it some more. The movie was hard to watch. Okay, and then here's the screenshot of that text message from Justin to Jennifer that says, also, I need you guys to really be on all the stories I'm tagged in. I think you should let all people DM me so you can see people's reactions to film and I can be reposting everything. These next 36 hours are crucial and we need to be on it. Looking at everything, finding the most emotional and touching content from survivors supporting this film and reposting. Need you to be finding survivors sharing their stories and amplifying them on my page and TikTok. Well, that's not cool. You can't just republish people's personal stories without their consent. I mean, come on, man. Leaving his DMs open. Telling her to leave his DMs open. Anybody slide into Justin Baldoni's DMs during this time? Thanks, Alex. It says his TED Talk is all about hypocrisy, apparently, how men need to show up for women and be advocates to prevent the very things we are currently reading together. Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Raymail 1962 says, if Blake were my daughter, I think I might be in jail. Becky says, great. Re-abusing survivors. Yeah. Let me just take their content, open up my DMs for everyone. And then I'm going to find the best stories. And then I'm going to use them to promote my film. Mr. Baldoni went so far as proposing to share a video of a woman's birth moment. But his team talked him out of it, warning that it might be perceived as weird and was too intimate. Was it going to be his wife's? Still, Mr. Baldoni's team was more than willing to deploy survivors' stories, reactions, and images to protect Mr. Baldoni's image. Oh, that's a good idea. Let's re-victimize the survivors in order to pump you up. Polyclaire says the TED Talk could be titled Look Over There. Oh, no spoilers. Blessed in Texas says, see last night's Landman. Raymail, no, I didn't watch it yet. No spoilers. No spoilers. Mr. Baldoni went so far as proposing to share a video. Oh, I just said that, of a woman's birth moment. Okay. Mr. Baldoni and his team formulate a retaliatory plan. Wayfarer knew the details of Ms. Lively's and others' concerns, the HR complaints raised regarding Mr. Baldoni's and Mr. Heath's behavior, Ms. Lively's contractual rider, and the January 4th, 2024 meeting to discuss their behavior. In addition, Wayfarer's PR team knew about the claims by Ms. Lively and others, as well as the protections rider, as Wayfarer sent the materials to them in November of 2023. As early as May of 2024, Mr. Baldoni told his team that they needed a plan to get ahead of the claims against him in the event they were to go public. Specifically, Mr. Baldoni wrote, just want you guys to have a plan. Plans make me feel more at ease. On May 17th, 2024, Mr. Baldoni texted his publicist, Jennifer Abel, that Ms. Lively's husband had blocked him on social media, stating, we should have a plan for if she does the same when the movie comes out. This is major concern that it's going to get out that Blake Lively blocked him on social media, just like Ryan Reynolds did. Here's footnote number 12, which says, in fact, both Ms. Lively and her husband had unfollowed Mr. Baldoni's social media accounts 10 months before. Sounds like he was pretty hurt about it, or the optics of it. In June 2024, a month after Mr. Baldoni's first promotional event for the film, Ms. Lively and others in the cast fulfilled their first publicity obligation for the film without Mr. Baldoni. They did not publicly discuss the misconduct that had occurred on set. Neither did they ever suggest to Wayfarer or to Mr. Baldoni that they intended to discuss their concerns publicly. Yet, on June 20th, 2024, Ms. Abel texted Mr. Heath her concern, quote, "We can't have fans starting to guess why Justin Baldoni is left out of this stuff." I can't believe they put it in writing either. But you know what? They never thought their text messages were going to get out there. Right? Yeah, he's living on Block Island. JB is the captain of Block Island. He's the captain. Likewise, Mr. Baldoni strategized with his publicist, Ms. Abel, about various ways in which they might cover up or explain away his on-set misconduct. On June 24, 2024, for example, Mr. Baldoni proposed an offensive move showing his neurodivergence and some of the attributes that come with it to explain that anything that he had been accused of was social awkwardness and impulsive speech. Wow. Weaponizing his neurodivergence. Footnote 13. Consistent with this plan, Mr. Baldoni has recently been making the press rounds discussing his ADHD. See Kimberly Speakman's article entitled "Justin Baldoni Reveals He Was Diagnosed with ADHD After 40 After Struggling Through School. I Felt Broken" in People Magazine, December 5th of 2024. And then another article entitled "Justin Baldoni Says He Had Near Breakdown While Filming It Ends With Us. There was so much pain" in The Hollywood Reporter, December 4th, 2024. And then another article entitled "Justin Baldoni Reveals New Clinical," go to the next page, "diagnosis. I haven't spoken about this publicly," in Parade magazine on December 4th, 2024. And here's a text message from June 24th, 2024, from Justin to Jennifer. It says, "Hey guys, one thing I want to do is the Dr. Amen show." Dr. Amen. "Matt, I know you have your feelings about it, but his practice saved my friend Miranda's life a few months ago. With everything going on, I want to have an offensive move showing my neurodivergence and some of the attributes that come with it so that I can start talking about it. Most anything that I have been, quote, accused of is social awkwardness and impulsive speech. And I think me sitting down with him and just looking at my brain and talking about some of these things will be helpful for me." I'm going to just go to the chat for a minute on this weaponization of or shield, let's say, of neurodivergence that I don't know if he made it up or not. Amen Clinic? I don't know. Who's Dr. Amen show? Oh, Andrew says he does all the celebrities and tells them what they want to hear. Drunk on drugs says, "My eyes have rolled so far back into my empty skull." Lois Lane. Hi, Lois says, "Yes, I think the Amen Clinic." Kristen H says, "Paris Hilton said her ADHD is her superpower. What a positive way to see it." I guess he's very famous, this doctor. We're gonna have to go look him up after. I'm gonna have to go look him up after this. He's the fellow who tells famous people about their brain. Anna says this guy's sick. Interesting. Princess Coyote says, after the Depp Heard debacle, I know better now than to read these allegations as anything more than alleged. All of it is alleged. I genuinely hope he countersues and they go to court so we can watch. Well, what happens is there's a process that they have to go through because this is initially filed with the Civil Rights Department of the state of California, and they investigate it. Then they try, maybe to sometimes hold a mediation or some other way to try and resolve it. So it's an administrative process first in California, and that's where this was filed. Kate says this guy has no shame. Yeah, Mel says, there we go. Another abuser blaming his actions on some supposed diagnosis. Yes, okay, thanks, Kate. Kate's keeping score. She says, just to keep track. Corn addict, neurodivergent, socially awkward, all to blame for his harassment here. All of it. Moving on. Oh, Daniel Amen. Daniel Amen is the guy who helped Justin Bieber, the doctor who helped Justin Bieber. Poor Justin Bieber. I firmly believe so much more is going to come out about Justin Bieber. Perhaps being a victim of maybe the guy who's sitting in federal lockup in New York. Maybe. So sad. We need a bingo card. We got these texts through subpoenas, Truth Seeker. But we still got more reading to do, so maybe we'll find out more. That same day, Ms. Abel reviewed again the agreed upon list of protections that formed the basis for the contractual rider. On July 24th, 2024, Ms. Abel emailed Mr. Heath and others requesting the legal letter that was sent to Ms. Lively and her team stating, per our conversation, we will go through point by point and draft context surrounding each situation. We can then flag what we are missing that would be helpful to arm us in the case we need to refute. In case, what? We can then flag what we are missing that would be helpful to arm us in the case we need to refute any of the claims. Well, I think it's supposed to say, in case we need to refute any of the claims. On July 26, 2024, Mr. Baldoni sent Ms. Abel a Variety article about Francis Ford Coppola's inappropriate behavior on set during production of his movie, Megalopolis, including his alleged kissing of cast and crew, as described by unnamed sources. In conveying the article, Mr. Baldoni stated, "This is the stuff that I'm sure they want to do, unnamed sources, etc." On July 29th, 2024, Mr. Baldoni and Ms. Abel discussed a proposal to get ahead of any potential publicity regarding Ms. Lively's HR complaints against him with a social and digital combat plan. F. Wayfarer engages Melissa Nathan and the agency group on behalf of Mr. Baldoni to launch a retaliation campaign against Ms. Lively. As the film's release date of August 9th, 2024 drew closer, Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, Wayfarer, Ms. Abel, and others continued to pursue a strategy on behalf of Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer to arm themselves against the possibility that Ms. Lively or others might go public with the claims against Mr. Baldoni or Wayfarer. This plan took shape with Wayfarer's retention on behalf of Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni of Melissa Nathan, which occurred on or around July 31st, 2024. Melissa Nathan is a crisis manager. On or about June 20th, 2024, Ms. Nathan launched the agency group, PR. TAG, T-A-G, the agency group. Okay, that's where TAG is coming from. Okay. TAG markets itself as a team of crisis specialists and communication experts that redefines the rules of reputation management. TAG's website states, a tag, it's more than just creating a powerful narrative. It's knowing how to navigate that narrative toward continued success and a lasting legacy. And then I think these footnotes are probably just, links to the website. TAG's website states that it offers comprehensive communication services for individuals, businesses, and corporations looking to invest in reputation management and the growth of their unique public profiles. TAG specializes in crisis communication, having managed some of the biggest public-facing crises to date, including entertainment, media, business, and sports. TAG services include messaging and narrative development, media relations, crisis communications and management, and digital and social strategy, among others. By July 31st, 2024, Wayfarer had started to put together a time limit of events to be shared with Ms. Nathan and TAG. According to TAG's own planning documents, the purpose of Ms. Nathan's engagement was to help Mr. Baldoni get ahead of the narrative and mitigate bad press that might arise from Ms. Lively's and others' HR complaints becoming public by engaging in techniques such as a rapid response communication system and cataloging third-party advocates willing to provide a potential quote or engage with reporters on Mr. Baldoni's and Mr. Heath's behalf to mitigate negative narratives from a source outside of Wayfarer. See Exhibit D. It's all manufactured. As set forth above, on August 5th, 2024, Mr. Baldoni sent Ms. Abel a screenshot of a thread on X regarding another female public figure's alleged history of bullying many women. That was Hailey Bieber, as we looked at before. Mr. Baldoni stated, "This is what we would need." The next day, even though Ms. Nathan and TAG had already begun performing work on behalf of Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni, Ms. Nathan texted a text chain with Ms. Abel and Mr. Heath, providing pricing quotes ranging from $75,000 to $175,000 for TAG's crisis mitigation services. Ms. Nathan explained the quote as follows. Quote 1, $175,000. This will be for a 3 to 4 month period and includes website to discuss, full Reddit, full social account takedowns, full social crisis team on hand for anything, engage with audiences in the right way, start threads of theories to discuss. This is the way to be fully 100% protected. Anybody wants to start a new business, maybe PR is the way to go. $175,000. And she just started this company in June of 2024. She must have been somewhere else before this because there's no way she could command this much money unless she was very, very good at what she did. Oh, Alex went back and she's listening to the TED Talk in one ear and listening to me in the other ear. And she says, well, I can't make this up. TED Talk. Baldoni says, are you confident enough to listen to the women in your life? I'd say, nope. Maybe he means just listen and do nothing. Big old dog's like, that's all? $175K to destroy a public person? Huh? When you consider that the movie has made upwards of $350 million, I bet he would say that was money well spent. Let's see which you decided to go with. Let's see. So that was the $175K. So then the quote at quote 2 is $25,000 per month, minimum 3-month contract, as it needs to seed same as above. This will be for creation of social fan engagement to go back and forth with any negative accounts, helping to change the narrative and stay on track. Ms. Nathan stated, all of this will be most importantly untraceable. Wow. Those of you who are on Twitter have probably seen this stuff in action. There's a lot more to both these quotes, but easier to discuss via phone in terms of capabilities and what I've personally experienced in and out of crisis scenarios. Right. The right team, Brittany. The movie's going to make another $50 million after this because everyone's going to go tonight and watch it on Netflix, right? Okay, so D. Kilgallen, we're going to look at what they were required by contract to do and say during the promotion of the movie. So when you say he didn't make her tell everyone to grab their friends, wear their florals, and go see that movie, and you say she downplayed the DV, made jokes when asked what she would say to DV victims, That was pursuant to the contract, which is attached here as an exhibit to this. And that's what they were directed to do. He changed the narrative outside the contract. So just hang tight because we're going to get to it. And that's what they wanted you to believe through this social media campaign that he paid however much for. That's what he wants you to believe. But pursuant to the terms of her contract, that's what she was supposed to say. She was supposed to downplay the DV. Those are the terms of the contract. I'm going to show it to you. That's why we're reading the documents. And here is the text message. And I'll leave it here in case you want to come back and look at it later. But it's what we just read. All of this will be most importantly untraceable. The Hollywood Reporter announced the retention of Ms. Nathan and Tag on August 13th of 2024. The report stated, in part, the news comes days after sleuths flooded TikTok with speculation about an alleged rift between Baldoni and his cast and crew, including co-star and producer Blake Lively, as well as Hoover. Chatter spiked when fans noticed Baldoni's absence from joint press events and the lack of group photos of Lively and Baldoni together at the New York premiere August 6th. Some also pointed out that neither Lively or Hoover, nor the rest of the cast, follow Baldoni on Instagram, though he follows them. And this is the citation to this is in footnote 20. And the article is entitled, Justin Baldoni hires crisis PR veteran amid alleged it ends with us rift in the Hollywood Reporter. And there's a link as well. Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and Wayfarer perpetrate a retaliation scheme against Ms. Lively. 109. Ms. Abel, Ms. Nathan, and others employed or engaged by TAG perpetrated a retaliation scheme against Ms. Lively in collusion with Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and Wayfarer. This scheme was what TAG described as a social manipulation plan relying on direct and constant media engagement, the seeding of content on traditional and social media platforms, the boosting of content, sometimes the very content that TAG and its affiliates had seeded, the suppressing of negative content about Mr. Baldoni, and amplifying the negative content about Ms. Lively. On August 1, 2024, before any of the cast sat down for interviews at the film's press junkets, Ms. Abel stated to Mr. Heath and Wayfarer personnel that she had held an in-person meeting with a contributor to People, Fox News, In Touch, and Us Weekly. Ms. Abel explained that during the meeting, she had fully briefed the contributor of the situation with Ms. Lively. Ms. Abel stated that the contributor was armed and ready to take this story of Blake weaponizing feminism and assured Mr. Heath that the contributor, quote, will do anything for us. And there it is. There's a text message from Jennifer Abel to Jamey Heath that says, thanks for the call. Confidentially, I'm out to dinner with a friend of 12 plus years who writes for People Magazine, Fox News, In Touch, Us Weekly, and she's fully briefed of the situation and is armed and ready to take this story of Blake weaponizing feminism to any of her outlets the minute we give her the green light. She hates Blake, has heard this story before, and will do anything for us. Just FYI, with a little smiley face. Wow. Thank you, Old Line Red. What's important here is the rider that they signed with Blake specifically prohibited retaliation, so they are in breach of the contract, and they texted all about it. Martha says this is pretty damning information, in my opinion. Yeah. And think about it. Think about other stories, right, that you've read about and that you might have thought were true. Think about the villain that Angelina Jolie has made Brad Pitt out to be during the course of their divorce, their custody proceedings, the stories that came out about him allegedly laying hands on the children on some flight. It's been going on for I don't even know how many years, over a decade. Did she hire a PR team like this too to plant those stories in the media? Food for thought. And by the way, Apparently, she's also Johnny Depp's PR crisis manager, because one of the articles is called, on Barstool Sports, Justin Baldoni hired Johnny Depp's PR crisis manager. A week later, the whole world turned on Blake Lively. Really makes you wonder. And Rose says, after Amber Heard's approach, I approach claims like this with caution. I wouldn't just take Lively at face value. It would be interesting to see what comes from this. It'd be interesting to see if this same woman was hired by Johnny Depp. It would be interesting to see what was planted in the media about Amber Heard. That I would find to be very interesting, because it really does make you wonder. Right? Becky says that's how she got her cred. Right? This person was hired by Depp after the UK trial. Does it say that? I don't know. I cannot confirm or deny. So this is a continuation of the prior footnote, which I guess we should read because there's more articles here. Baldoni hires crisis PR vet Melissa Nathan as rumor mill swirls about filmmaker stars rift with Blake Lively. That was a Deadline article. Another article in Jezebel said, what the hell's going on? And it says, I don't know what to make of this. I'm sure Nathan is great at her job, but it feels wild to me to hire Depp's former crisis PR when you're maybe in some hot water over a movie you made where you play a domestic abuser. Another article called Justin Baldoni made a curious PR move amid his drama with Blake Lively and the It Ends With Us cast, Yahoo Entertainment. And then an article, Justin Baldoni hired Johnny Depp's PR crisis manager. A week later, the whole world turned on Blake Lively, and that was from Barstool Sports. On or around August 2nd of 2024, Ms. Abel connected the contributor with Ms. Nathan. Subsequently, Ms. Nathan engaged directly with the media sources on behalf of Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer regarding Mr. Baldoni, Ms. Lively, and the film. On August 2nd, 2024, Ms. Nathan, Mr. Baldoni, Ms. Abel, and others had a phone call to discuss the services that Ms. Nathan and TAG would provide for Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer. Subsequently, on August 2nd, 2024, TAG circulated a document to Mr. Baldoni and others entitled Scenario Planning. It Ends With Us, as described above. Oh, see also Exhibit D. I mean, they've got all the documents. They've got all the receipts. Of note, the scenario planning document states, there are several potential scenarios at play here which we should be prepared for should Ms. Lively and her team make her grievances public. (115) The scenario planning document provides TAG's recommendations to get ahead of the narrative. This included suggesting misleading messages that 1, production members lost their jobs due to Ms. Lively's takeover and insisted upon involvement. 2, Ms. Lively involved her husband to create an imbalance of power between her and Mr. Baldoni. 3, Ms. Lively has a less than favorable reputation in the industry. 4, Ms. Lively had a clear, likely motive to bully her way into buying the rights for It Starts With Us, the sequel to the film currently owned by Wayfarer. I think I saw articles that had all of those titles and all of those topics, actually. The scenario planning document states that TAG could also explore planting stories about the weaponization of feminism and how people in Blake's circle, like Taylor Swift, have been accused of utilizing these tactics to bully into getting what they want. Kimmy says they've been doing it for years, back in the 40s, 50s, etc. Lucille Ball was blackballed. Russian collusion. I remember that. I watched that movie. Did you watch that movie? So good. Nina Arianda was in it. Who played Lucille Ball? Nicole Kidman, I think, right? That was a really good movie. Somebody remind me what the name of that movie was. Was it just called Lucy? I forget, but it was a really good movie. Upon the review of the scenario planning document, Mr. Baldoni informed Mr. Heath that he was not in love with the document they sent. Not sure I'm feeling the protection I felt on the call. Mr. Heath responded, the most important part of this is how quickly they can shut things down and place stories in your favor. Later the same day, Ms. Abel conveyed to Ms. Nathan that Mr. Baldoni was questioning whether the plan was aggressive enough, texting that Mr. Baldoni wanted to feel like Ms. Lively could be buried. Ms. Nathan responds, of course. But, you know, when we send over the documents, we can't send over the work. Will or could do, because that could get us in a lot of trouble. We can't write it down to him. We can't write, we will destroy her. Imagine if a document saying all the things that he wants ends up in the wrong hands. Oh, thank you, Harmony. It was called Being the Ricardos. Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye, Scott. I know. Christmas shopping is still needs to happen. I know. And here are the receipts from Jennifer to Melissa. You can, of course, do that, but I think he needs to know. I'm going to confidentially send you something. He's texting me and Jamey on the side just to arm you before this call. I think you guys need to be tough and show the strength of what you guys can do in these scenarios. He wants to feel like she can be buried. That was August 2nd, 2024. Melissa to Jennifer. We can't write it down to him. We can't write, we'll destroy her. We will go to this. We will do this. We will do this. We will do this. He has to look at it as an information document for us to be armed with. That's all. Imagine if a document saying all the things that he wants ends up in the wrong hands. Well, I think the text messages just did. Hi, Team Brittany. Can you point out that if you see this, that Taylor Swift won her suit and settled for $1 to show it was about principle, not money? Lots may not know that. Yeah. I would imagine that if this gets to a lawsuit and there's ever any money awarded to her, she would do something like donate it to, a shelter, like a DV shelter or something like that, or some charity that helps survivors. Thank you. Thank you, Team Brittany, for pointing that out. Good luck. I went shopping today. So nope, I'm just going to go right on the internet. Or I'm just going to go to the cash machine and put money in cards, and that's going to be it. Kate says, these texts are priceless. Polly Claire says, yes, Team Brittany, we remembered. And he says also, and Team Brittany also says, remember, Depp donated his money to the charity Amber Heard wouldn't pay. Esme says, oh, I love that more than the $1. They need the money. Yep. On August 4th, do you guys want to keep reading? Because we've got a lot to go through still, but we're getting there. We're making a dent. But I think it's important to read the whole document. I don't like to do things and report on them with you without having read the whole document and just giving you a summary of it, because we got to read the whole document, because there's so much here. And who knows, there could be still plants out there in the land of social media still trying to because now they're going to have to pay to get people to try and squash this. See? Exactly. I believe this. I believe this firmly. Calissa Katz says, wondering if this kind of thing has been happening behind the scenes in entertainment for years. The rest of us are just now finding out. Yep. Exactly. There are many people who will tell you, and this is, I don't know if this has been confirmed, for example, that the Tom Cruise, Katie Holmes marriage was a contract. And the reason that she filed for divorce the day that she did was because it was the day after the contract expired. Imagine if you have enough money, you can get that now, but now they're going to be on full force to squash this, right? But again, a little too late. And by the way, I don't know, what's going to happen to these PR people's careers. Hi, happy birthday to your grandson. Boone's Toilet Hooch coming in with the Boone's Toilet Hooch dues. Why all the same lawsuit actions onset and after? Well, this is a civil rights complaint that is made to, it's an administrative complaint. It's not a lawsuit yet. I think she felt that now was the time to do this because for the most part, well, the movie's out of the theaters and it's on Netflix now and it's been purchased, and she was trying to stay in compliance with her contract for as long as possible, in my opinion. Thank you, Blessed in Texas. I think I addressed this before. Chop Trials, are you in any shows or movies? You talk about auditioning, but have you gotten any roles? I don't remember you saying. Well, not the ones that I've auditioned for lately. You don't hear anything unless you hear anything, but I have an IMDb page. Oh, yeah, go click on it if you want to, because it raises my star meter, which is always good. I did have my first Super Bowl commercial audition recently. What I can't tell you what it is for, but if it airs during the Super Bowl, I will tell you which one it was after it airs. That's pretty exciting. Olivia said, how do you even combat or defend this if you're Baldoni? He made a statement claiming there was no truth to Blake's claims, but Blake's claims are literally Justin's own text messages. Yeah. Lori Jean says, I don't like the one-sided, my goodness, hashtag men too. Yeah, men too. Polly Claire. And S super chat for the mods, especially Team Brittany, who's so calm and articulate and makes this chat the safest exchange and questions and thoughts. She's amazing. She is amazing. We love Team Brittany. Lori, thanks for becoming a new member. I don't know. I don't know how he's going to defend this, but it'll be interesting. We're here for it. I know we're here for it. You guys are here for it. I'm here for it. Okay. I don't know. Power 64 says, if you followed Pitt and Jolie closely at all, it's clear that Brad Pitt, who's trying to plant the stories, he's planting the stories about himself abusing his own children. What stories did he plant? Genuinely, like, what? I'm curious about her. All right, moving on. On August 4th, Ms. Abel texted Ms. Nathan stating, I'm having reckless thoughts of wanting to plant pieces this week of how horrible Blake is to work with, just to get ahead of it. She's putting us through hell. Ms. Lively was, in fact, doing nothing other than engaging in the approved marketing plan for the film at that time. Ms. Nathan responded, same, and indicated that she had already spoken to the Daily Mail. There are those text messages. And then the final one that I didn't read says, am I already off the records? Spoke to the editor Daily Mail because she's my friend. She's ready when we are. Ms. Abel and Ms. Nathan viewed and referred to their shared work on behalf of Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer as a, quote, social combat plan, end quote. Jennifer to Melissa, I think we really need to put the social combat plan then into motion. Melissa to Jennifer, so do I. That same day, Ms. Abel corresponded with TAG personnel regarding her discussion with Ms. Nathan regarding social manipulation, which she described as distinct from social media mitigation and proactive fan posting to counter the narrative. And here's an email. Let's see if I can. This is from Jennifer to Jamey Heath. And it says, thanks, Katie. Just for clarity, so we understand, does this cover your initial fee and what we discussed in terms of social media mitigation and proactive fan posting to counter the narrative? Or is this in addition to the $15K previously agreed upon fee for TAG and does not include what we discussed with MN earlier regarding social manipulation from the separate team based in Hawaii? In short, the total fee incurred by Wayfarer, $30K, or is there more required to ensure we are properly protected. When media sources made direct inquiries regarding potentially unflattering stories about Mr. Baldoni specifically, Ms. Nathan, Ms. Abel, and their teams worked to suppress those stories. For example, on August 7th, 2024, TAG indicated their intent to leverage social to quiet/kill media coverage regarding public suspicions regarding Mr. Baldoni's disconnect from the film's cast. Cuzco Wright says, if this is true, it seems like a case of brilliant casting. They got an actor who seems attractive and charming, then turns out to be an abuser. Fits the script. He was also the producer and the owner of the film. He wasn't who I pictured as Ryle when I read the book, but nobody asked me. Yeah. Okay. If you watch Ocean's 8, I am in there for like it's split second. You're not even gonna be able to find me. It's in like the fashion show scene where they have like the stewardesses doing like a fashion show. But what was really cool about that movie was that we filmed it in the TWA terminal at JFK Airport. For those of you who know, I now have a hotel in that terminal. It was really, really fun. And I got to be in the same room with Sandra Bullock and Kate Blanchett. What was it? Yeah, Kate Blanchett. Uh-huh. That was cool. And I met Helena Bonham Carter in the restroom. So that was kind of cool. I think it was Ocean's 8, right? It was a long time ago. Truth Seeker says, this is a total smear campaign. It's going to be very hard to prove otherwise, in my opinion. All right. On August 9th, 2024, Ms. Nathan sent Ms. Abel 2 links to articles. One from The Hollywood Reporter entitled, Did Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni have a rift over It Ends With Us? Sleuthing TikTokers think so. And one from the Daily Mail entitled, Disturbing Truth Behind Why Blake Lively and her It Ends With Us stars are feuding with Justin Baldoni. The Daily Mail article reports on allegations that Justin Baldoni was chauvinistic and borderline abusive on the set of It Ends With Us, and discusses this and other claims with respect to the film and its cast in detail. And then there are links to the articles in this document. Ms. Abel stated to Ms. Nathan, I can tell you've done a lot of work here. And continued, nothing about being unsafe, fat comments, sexual. She concluded, thank effing God. Or ducking. We like to say ducking around here. On August 8th, 2024, Ms. Abel stated that the situation moved from just monitoring and scenario planning to Ms. Nathan and me having to have an off-the-record conversation with outlets such as the Today Show. Ms. Abel noted that because of Ms. Nathan's relationship, those outlets were being kept at bay. August 9th, 2024, Ms. Nathan indicated to Ms. Abel that she was on the phone with her sister, Sarah Nathan, a journalist at the New York Post and contributor at Page 6, and remarked that Mr. Baldoni's religion should be taken out from media coverage. She went on to state, and mostly the misogynistic. Apparently this is his religion, Baha'i, Bahai, needs to be out, and mostly the misogynistic. That's what that text message said. Later that same day, Ms. Nathan texted Ms. Abel a link of an article on Page 6 by Sarah Nathan entitled, Truth behind It Ends With Us, Feud Rumors, Justin Baldoni made Blake Lively uncomfortable, sources say, stating, I knew she would keep uncomfortable. And that is a link to an article on Page 6 by Sarah Nathan, the sister of Melissa Nathan. Go figure. Yeah, implying that a woman is fat while she's breastfeeding a newborn is the lowest of the lows, in my opinion, says Team Brittany. And I think a lot of people in the chat will agree with you there. On August 9th, 2024, Ms. Abel and Ms. Nathan discussed suppressing 2 stories that report Ms. Lively was uncomfortable on the set. Ms. Nathan texted, all press is so overwhelming. We've confused people. So much mixed messaging. It's actually really funny if you think about it. And then Jennifer texts to Melissa, so are we in the clear now? Did we survive? And Melissa says, we survived. Ms. Nathan further texted Miss Abel that the worst is over and that Mr. Baldoni likely would not be canceled, corroborating that the nature of the ongoing campaign was designed to harm Ms. Lively and conceal Mr. Baldoni's conduct on set. And then she said, Melissa to Jennifer, I really think the worst is over. I do think the next few months definitely will be a tiny bit bumpy, but not canceled. The following day, Ms. Abel stated that the narrative online is so freaking good and fans are still sticking up for Justin, and there literally has been no pickup of those 2 articles, which is actually shocking to me. But I see this as a total success, as does Justin. You did such amazing work. Ms. Nathan responded, so did you. And Drunk on Drugs says, hold on. Drunk on Drugs says, oh, now I'm going to miss it. Well, now, still think the worst is over? Yeah, smash the like button. Smash the like button. Hang on. One moment. Okay. Jennifer to Melissa. Ha. Yes. Some people text me too, and I just didn't respond. The narrative online is so freaking good, and the fans are still sticking up for Justin. And there's literally been no picking up of those 2 articles. Wow. And those are the receipts on that. Ms. Nathan texted later the same day, the majority of socials are so pro Justin, and I don't even agree with half of them. LOL. There's that receipt. She continued, I mean, that was just a lot of work, just talking everyone off the effing ledge for those 2 pieces. Ms. Nathan followed up again, texting, he doesn't realize how lucky he is right now. We need to press on him just how effing lucky. The whispering in the ear, the sexual connotations, like Jesus effing. Other members feeling uncomfortable watching it. I mean, there's just so much. And there are the receipts on that. And then there's a text from Jennifer to Justin. Says, nothing. Very, very little pickup. Fans remain supportive of you and believe the issue of the feud is because she took control of the movie. And I mean, if you were reading the tabloids or even the regular mainstream media, that's probably what you believed. Maybe until now. Maybe you still believe it. I don't know. Following day, Ms. Abel confirmed to Mr. Baldoni that there had been nothing, very little pickup, and that fans believe the issue of the feud is because she took control of the movie. Earlier on August 9th, 2024, Ms. Nathan had shared with Ms. Abel that she had been informed, we are crushing it on Reddit. Ms. Nathan's reference to Jed is a reference to Mr. Jed Wallace, an independent contractor based in Austin, Texas, who was retained by TAG to perform social media services on behalf of Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni in connection with TAG's engagement. The quotation appears to be a reference to efforts by Mr. Wallace to seed and influence online forums on Reddit, attacking Ms. Lively and defending Mr. Baldoni. The same day, an employee of TAG texted a link to a salacious story about Ms. Lively's family and noted, the tides are swirling around Ryan now, FYI. Along these same lines, the team had previously shared an upsetting TikTok video which called for Blake to divorce Ryan, writing, you guys will love this. TAG then described this post as very helpful. Crushing it on Reddit is a weird flex. Faith says the comments online yesterday were wild and so aggressive against her, using the same talking points stated here. Jed is hard at work. Seems like it. They're still working. You're right. They're still working. People need to be informed. I'm here to read this to you and inform you. I mean, they have receipts for all of it. I mean, here's the link. You guys will love this. And there's a link to a TikTok basically saying that Blake needs to divorce Ryan because he's made her into a meme. He's ruining her biggest movie of the year, forcing her to ostracize Justin, rewriting the script, etc. That's what a lot of people thought. Wow. On August 10th, 2024, Ms. Nathan stated to Ms. Abel that socials are really, really ramping up. She continued, it's actually sad because it just shows you have people really want to hate on women. People do really want to hate on women. We say that all the time. Women are harder on women than, and you see it. If you're on the cesspool of Twitter, you see it. The same day, a member of the tag team advised of a shift on social due largely to Jed and his team's efforts to shift the narrative towards shining a spotlight on Blake and Ryan. Further, Ms. Nathan and her team at Tag helped generate or otherwise influence the content put forth by various TikTok account holders. During the same period of time, Ms. Nathan, Ms. Abel, and the teams were heavily monitoring, had friendlies updating them, and sought to address unflattering commentary regarding Mr. Baldoni while augmenting the spread of stories that were favorable to Mr. Baldoni. For example, on August 9th, 2024, Ms. Abel circulated a screenshot of a post by a woman stating, Justin, the creator of a new show called My Last Days, exploits the struggles of individuals facing terminal illnesses for his own gain. He found my friend who is battling a serious illness and followed her life closely. Despite her grace in not speaking ill of him, I sensed from the start that something was deeply wrong. Justin weaponizes therapeutic language, presenting himself as thoughtful and supportive, yet his actions reveal a very different reality. He portrays himself as an ally to women and the vulnerable, but it's all a facade. He manipulates the vernacular of care to mask his true intentions. In reality, none of the proceeds from the show benefited the individuals he profiled. He even had the audacity to depict her hometown, a vibrant and affluent community, as a small, impoverished town. His portrayal was not just inaccurate, but insulting. Once the show aired, Justin took his profits and vanished, leaving nothing but a sense of exploitation in his wake. His behavior was not just tacky and gross, it was a betrayal of the very people he claimed to uplift. In response to the article, Ms. Abel stated, I'm assuming this is not true in the slightest. Either way, we flagged to Jed and his team for more serious action on the social side. Wow, out there trying to take people down on social media. Imagine. Similarly, on August 13th, 2024, the team discussed ways to use the digital team to amplify positive stories about Mr. Baldoni. Likewise, on August 18th, an employee of Tag suggested that they chat with Jed in response to other allegations made online regarding Mr. Baldoni. Oh, and then here's one. So this girl is claiming that Justin invited her to his hotel room years ago, invited her up to his hotel room years ago. I didn't want to share the vid, but blank did a screen record, and this is her account, so you guys can look at it. Part of me wants blank, his former assistant, to comment and say this never happened. Ridiculous. Wow. Hi, Loudmouse. Thanks for the 10. Off topic, if Brennan yanks a live Chloe out of his butt mid-trial, Karen will find her fur on that carpet she stored. I have 2 German Shepherds and they shed like no other breed. Thank you. Thank you for the 10. And then another 10 from Loudmouse. I ran out of room in my last message, but I just wanted to say Merry Christmas, Melanie and fellow cupcakes. You are my favorite chat out of all the channels I follow. Our first Christmas as grandparents. Oh, that's amazing. Merry Christmas to you and your family and to your little grandbabies. That's exciting. Venus Blue says, check out the pod who trolled Amber. A lot of the same. Thank you, Venus Blue. I mean, was it ever clarified how much money they were spending, which plan they decided to go with? I don't know how much money they're paying for this, but Faith says, according to the claims, there are many others involved, so we will learn a lot more for sure. Mm. Okay. On any occasion, and then let's chat to Jed. On any occasion, any member of the Wayfarer or the social media manipulation team could text the link to a positive story about Mr. Baldoni, or a negative story about Ms. Lively, and ask that someone boost the story to the public or engage in the comments to fuel the desired narrative. On August 18th, 2024, Mr. Baldoni circulated a TikTok video in which the poster criticized Ms. Lively for not speaking about DV in press interviews. This is what the viewer before was saying. Member of Ms. Nathan's team responded that she would let Digital know. And there was the user's name on TikTok is Thick Jewish Girl, and that was her TikTok, apparently. During the same period of time when media sources inquired about HR complaints that were made on the set of the film, Ms. Nathan, Ms. Abel, and their teams worked to suppress coverage of these HR complaints. Further, on or around August 14th, 2024, bring on Discovery. That's right, bring on Discovery. Well, this Civil Rights Commission is going to do their own investigation if they deem it to be worthy. Further, on or around August 14th, 2024, media outlets directly inquired about HR complaints made on set because they were being told there were at least 3 R complaints filed against Justin Baldoni on the set of It Ends With Us, and inquired if the complaints were investigated and what the results were. By this time, individuals at TAG, Ms. Nathan, and Ms. Abel were aware of the existence of HR complaints and sought clarity as to the specific HR complaints at issue in order to better counter them in the press. Approximately 1 minute later, Ms. Abel asserted the need to position the claims as claims that are already out there about the kiss and the weight comment, referencing earlier public reporting by TMZ on Mr. Baldoni's lingering kiss with Ms. Lively and Mr. Baldoni's comments regarding Ms. Lively's weight on set. On or around the same date, Ms. Nathan directly engaged with several media platforms discussing the issue of the HR complaints made against Mr. Baldoni while on the set of the film. On August 15th, Ms. Nathan texted Ms. Abel that DM hounded me regarding HR complaints. She stated that DM is not running any content about it. Continuing, Jen, this went so well, I am effing dying. I have to call you later in a bit and tell you how well this went. It was genius. So, okay, we have the 4 majors standing down on HR complaint. I think we are fine on that bit. During the same period of time, Ms. Nathan and her team at TAG planted or otherwise were involved in generating or influencing the content publicly put forth on social media, including Reddit and TikTok, as well as other media sources. For example, on August 13th, 2024, various text messages were exchanged between Ms. Abel and the journalist Sarah Nathan, who is explained above as Melissa Nathan's sister. These messages consisted of drafts of a story outlining Ms. Lively's role in making final cuts to the film. After Sarah Nathan circulated draft language related to Ms. Lively's involvement to the different cuts of the film, Ms. Abel sent Sarah Nathan revisions to the draft, which Sarah Nathan offered to amend. On the same day, an article authored by Sarah Nathan titled Blake Lively Approved Final Cut of It Ends With Us amid feud with co-star director Justin Baldoni was published in Page Six, owned by the New York Post. The article addressed, among other topics, Ms. Lively's role in approving the final cut of the film, but emphasizes how Ms. Lively contributed to almost every aspect of the film, that her husband wrote one of the most important scenes in the movie, and that she was begged to remove one of her song choices from the film, despite Mr. Baldoni's ownership of the rights to the book via his production company, Wayfarer. The language contained in the article is almost a verbatim copy of the language exchange between Sarah Nathan and Ms. Abel via text and reflects multiple of Ms. Abel's revisions to Sarah Nathan's original proposed draft. Tag publicly shared this article on one or more social media platforms, including Reddit, prompting various negative comments in relation to Ms. Lively and her husband, and the narrative that Ms. Lively steamrolled or bulldozed Mr. Baldoni in the film for her own personal gain. And many of you may have read those stories. I know I did. And here's all the links to that. The very next day, very same day. Hang on for 1 second. Let me just take this down for 1 second. Where are we? Okay. Team produces Reddit reminds me of a feral YouTube chat. You can find anything you need to know. You can go down a lot of rabbit holes. A lot of rabbit holes on Reddit. If you know, you know. All right. The very same day, Ms. Nathan sent an article from the Daily Mail entitled, "Is Blake Lively Set to be Canceled? String of hard-to-watch videos that have surfaced following tone-deaf Q&A to promote It Ends With Us could tarnish 36-year-old star's golden Hollywood image for good." That was published in page 6. Oh, no. Daily Mail. So here, they're going to go through a million more examples of articles that were planted and a whole lot more text messages proving all of it. You really outdid yourself. That's why you hired me. I'm the best. Following the August 2024 launch of Ms. Lively's hair care line, Blake Brown, which she spent 7 years building, the Instagram account of the brand was flooded by harassing and derogatory comments, including many posted by user accounts that had no followers and no prior posts, suggesting inauthenticity and which did not relate to the brand's products. To take just one example, one comment posted on the Blake Brown account by a user that as of December 19th, 2024, shows user metrics indicating 0 posts, 0 followers, and 0 following, commented, "How about you stop paying the media to trash and smear Justin? That would be a good start, you awful human being." Bots? Another user, also with 0 posts, 0 followers, and 0 following, posted, "We want Justin's cut of the movie. He actually cares about DV." Zoe wants to know, why would a person that's done nothing wrong need to plan out a social media smear campaign with PR and legal in case their true story gets out? Cover up it is also often what gets criminals caught. Yep. Bot accounts. Mm-hmm. Oh, Alex, welcome. Alex is a new member and got gifted. Yay. Yay. Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Sarowitz, along with Mr. Heath, not only encouraged efforts to target Ms. Lively and her family, but they went as far as to provide input and ideas on way to negatively influence the narrative against Ms. Lively and her family. I mean, these people stopped at nothing. For instance, on August 9th, 2024, the film's release date, after sharing certain negative articles about himself with Miss Abel, Mr. Baldoni stated, "There's no way we can just let this go." Additionally, on August 15th, 2024, Mr. Baldoni texted Ms. Nathan and Ms. Abel stating that his business partner, Mr. Sarowitz, suggested flipping the narrative arising from unnamed sources who had made false claims about Mr. Reynolds' involvement in the script of the film and suggested ways to manipulate those rumors to make Mr. Reynolds appear to be anti-feminist. There was no truth to these claims. Here are the text messages proving that. Ms. Nathan assured Mr. Baldoni that this is an easy flip before indicating that she was already working on a story for Variety that would achieve this goal. As of August 16, 2024, Ms. Nathan was continuing to confer with additional reporters to release stories that would cast Ms. Lively and or Mr. Reynolds in a negative light. Meanwhile, Ms. Lively neither publicly commented nor directed any of her representatives to comment or to engage with the print media, social media, or otherwise about the hostile work environment Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and Wayfarer created. Indeed, throughout the time period discussed herein, Ms. Lively did not provide her publicist with details about the hostile work environment that she, alongside other cast members and crew, had experienced. Moreover, Ms. Lively expressly instructed her publicist not to engage with press inquiries, including ones regarding the onset behavior of Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, or Wayfarer. She rose above it. Imagine how hard it was for her and Ryan to keep their mouths shut. Imagine how hard it was. That takes a lot of self-control. Experiencing the very sudden tidal wave of the increasingly negative public attention building around her, however, Ms. Lively began to suspect that the extraordinarily rapid shift in public sentiment and press coverage that began immediately after the rest of the cast and crew attended the world premiere was likely orchestrated by the men about whom she had raised HR complaints. Mr. Baldoni retaliated because HR complaints regarding his behavior threatened his feminist brand. On information and belief, Mr. Baldoni was desperate to suppress any suggestion that he engaged in inappropriate conduct, much less sexually harassing conduct, because it would entirely undermine his carefully curated public image as a feminist ally. Here it is. Here's the TED Talk, you guys. You guys brought it to my attention. In 2017, Justin Baldoni presented a TED Talk entitled "Why I'm Done Trying to Be Man Enough." Here it is. Mr. Baldoni challenged men to be man enough to stand up to other men when they hear locker room talk, when they hear stories of sexual harassment. What? Mr. Baldoni asked listeners, will you actually stand up and do something so that one day we don't have to live in a world where a woman has to risk everything and come forward to say the words "me too"? You can't script this, you guys. You can't. Danielle says, her brother said a few months back that people didn't know the truth about what went on and asked people to hold judgment till they did so. She only waited because she's been putting the case together. During the TED Talk, Mr. Baldoni displayed numerous screenshots of media coverage of himself from various sources as an example of his decision to use his social platform as a kind of this Trojan horse wherein he could create a daily practice of authenticity and vulnerability. Mr. Baldoni then claimed, the response has been incredible. It's been affirming. It's been heartwarming. I get tons of love and press, positive messages daily. Around the same time of that TED Talk in 2017, Mr. Baldoni announced the launch of a male talk show through his media company, Wayfarer Entertainment, called Man Enough. Through that show, Mr. Baldoni sought to have public conversations on camera that he had never seen men have. In one episode of his show, Man Enough, Mr. Baldoni hosted a roundtable with really strong men, including Mr. Heath and others, in reaction to the Me Too movement, to collectively learn from each other, from experts, and hear firsthand from women, and try and figure out how we can be better allies in our responses and our actions. And here's the sites for those if you want to find them. In the episode, Mr. Baldoni questions the group, who at this table has seen something and didn't say anything? I mean, objectification, harassment, and then not said anything. I mean, you really can't make this up. Thanks, Claire, for chiming in. Claire says, as a crew member, despite exhaustive sexual harassment trainings, these things happen, and they most often happen from the folks at the top. Right. And as a crew member, people are afraid to complain, right? Because you don't want to lose your gig, especially after what happened during the lockdowns, during the shutdowns, during the strikes. So many people who are in the business below the line lost everything during that time. You're absolutely right. Yep, that's right, Kimmy. Sometimes the ones talking the loudest have so many skeletons. Yep. Mary says, I followed this podcast and believed it. Uh-huh. Interesting. In 2021, the Man Enough franchise added a podcast, also produced by Wayfarer Studios. The Man Enough podcast has featured episodes entitled Strength and Unity, Men Supporting Women in Leadership, from misogyny's victim to male privilege and modern dating, consent, boundaries, and respect. Mr. Baldoni stated in his 2017 TED Talk, men are the problem. They created the glass ceiling, and if they want to be part of the solution, then words are no longer enough. By Mr. Baldoni's account, he became a feminist, fighting for gender equality so quickly that he hadn't even realized that's what he was trying to do. In Mr. Baldoni's own words, his activism starts in the mirror with an audience of one. Mr. Baldoni has stated that he feels a deep responsibility to tear down the walls of power and privilege and believes the world needs more men to show up, not in big ways, but in hundreds and thousands of little ways to create a better, more equitable, just world. Over the past approximately 7 years, and as relevant to this complaint, Mr. Baldoni has made the following statements. Let's just shut up and finally listen to the women in our lives. Everything has a citation here. Men are going to have to start doing now is recognizing when they made women uncomfortable and didn't realize it. I think that's when the other side of the Me Too movement is, I'm sorry. Growing up, how many times did I hear bros before hoes? How demeaning, how sexist. We've built this system, the opposite of accountability. Now it's time to figure out how, as men, we can break that system. And it starts with showing what a real man is. A real man is someone that says, hey man, we're still friends, but that's not cool. Imagine being sexually assaulted, finally coming forward about this traumatic thing that has happened to you, and having people acting like you were to blame. It's important for us men to realize how crucial a role bystanders can play in stopping and preventing assault and harassment, how we must be a part of the movement and call for respect and equality for women, act upon that call to action, and continue to perpetuate positive behaviors among ourselves and our communities. Are you confident enough to listen to the women in your life? And will you be man enough to stand up against other men when you hear locker room talk, when you hear stories of sexual harassment? All of us have a situation or a pattern that we need to end this cycle of, oh, wow. And wasn't this book the perfect thing for him to use to promote his agenda? Wow. There's all the citations for that. First of all, I want men to stop asking the question, why do women stay? I want men to take accountability. I want men to hold other men accountable. I'm so revolted by this that I'm just going to put it up on the screen and let you read it while I just go off screen for 1 second. But I'll be right back. All right. More other things that he has said and done. And moving on. Let's talk about the ways that she has been harmed by this. Well, right before that, it says, in sum, Mr. Baldoni has created a public image of himself as not just an ally, but also a fierce advocate for women. Contrary to this image as set forth in detail above, Mr. Baldoni has spent the last several months and significant resources on his goal of wanting to bury and destroy Ms. Lively for raising concerns about his and his CEO's harassing behavior and other disturbing conduct. Ms. Lively, her family, and her businesses have suffered and have been substantially harmed by the Wayfarer party's conduct. While there was considerable online coverage of the film and Ms. Lively's leading up to the film, its nationwide release in U.S. theaters on August 9th, 2024, that coverage was mostly neutral. Some online discussions referenced an apparent, quote, feud between the cast members, but they included a smaller percentage of negative and positive mentions. Soon, however, Ms. Lively and her team became aware of an increase in negative media articles and social media coverage about her. The significant spike of the volume of negative sentiments towards Ms. Lively included notable spikes on approximately August 8th and August 14th, 2024, and continued to trend mostly negative for the remainder of 2024. Yeah, gaslighting at its finest. Here's the chart. Indeed, as noted above, TAG itself noted a shift due to their efforts as early as August 10th, 2024. As of that date, the sentiment towards Ms. Lively turned toxic with a sudden increase in negative comments, including hypersexual content and calls for Ms. Lively to go F herself. Nearly decade-old interviews of Ms. Lively were surfaced, commenting on her tone, her posture, her diction, her language. Yep, you guys probably saw that too, right? There were some people in here commenting about how mean she was during Gossip Girl. That was all orchestrated for you to see, and you saw it. Ms. Lively was criticized for how she was marketing the film. She was repeatedly called a bully, a mean girl, and controlling, and was criticized for allegedly marginalizing Mr. Baldoni, among other things. Articles, which members of the TAG and JonesWorks teams working on behalf of Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer credited themselves with influencing, dissecting Ms. Lively, and contemplated her cancellation. On information and belief, the Wayfarer team seeded social media content into publications with small audiences and lax editorial standards, and then fed those posts and or articles to publications like Page Six, Newsweek, New York Post, TMZ, and BuzzFeed. These publications have larger audiences and greater reach, which significantly amplified the negative sentiment toward Ms. Lively. Content from low-influence sites was often linked or referenced in articles on these high-influence platforms. The social manipulation campaign, engineered by Mr. Baldoni and Wayfarer, helped create and sustain a negative news cycle and social media algorithm around Ms. Lively. The online narrative continues to trend more negatively as compared to other weeks and months prior to the social manipulation campaign, as reflected in all of these charts and things from June to the present. And they've got all the receipts on this and all the research, and they probably paid a lot of money to people to go track all this stuff down. And then they go on to say this is exactly what they wanted. This was precisely the effect that the Baldoni Wayfarer team hoped to achieve. They manipulated the social conversation to discredit and bury Ms. Lively in retaliation for reporting her concerns about harassing and unsafe conduct during the production of the film, and in the hopes of deterring Ms. Lively from potentially taking those same concerns public. This campaign has been devastating to Ms. Lively, including by causing substantial harm to Ms. Lively, her family, as well as her businesses and all the people who work at each of them. Unlike Wayfarer and Mr. Baldoni, Ms. Lively has been precluded from not only experiencing the success of the film, but also from having the ability to engage further with her businesses, fans, and social media followers without immediately triggering an onslaught of hateful comments. Instead, Ms. Lively and her family have been forced to contend with a wide-reaching negative media campaign. When it became clear that this media blitz was the result of an intentionally seeded, cultivated, and financed campaign against her, Ms. Lively began to experience mental, physical, professional, and financial harms that continue to this day. The effects on Ms. Lively's professional life were immediate and substantial. Given the ongoing nature of the campaign and the associated negative public sentiment, Ms. Lively did not believe that she could proceed with public appearances or events without being forced to openly discuss what happened on set. For example, Ms. Lively canceled a critical Target corporate event for her hair care company, and she backed out of her scheduled role to host the premiere episode of the 50th anniversary season of Saturday Night Live in September of 2024. Yeah, they were reporting on that yesterday. She was supposed to host the premiere of SNL in September, the 50th anniversary premiere. And she backed out because of all the hate. The retaliation campaign against Ms. Lively has damaged her companies as well. The long-planned launch of her hair care line, Blake Brown, a date which was set more than a year prior to the date selected, not by Ms. Lively, for the release of the film, was caught up in the crossfires of the negative environment against Ms. Lively. Initially, before the social manipulation campaign started, Ms. Lively was informed that Blake Brown was Target's largest hair care launch on record. Based on internal sales projections, the sudden and unexpected negative social media campaign launched against Ms. Lively depressed retail sales of Blake Brown products by 56 to 78%. I mean, these are all damages that are tangible. Basically a calculation. This dramatic drop was completely at odds with the high satisfaction scores that Blake Brown products received in the significant consumer testing performed before launch or its initial success after launch. Around the same time, the social media accounts for Ms. Lively's brands, including Betty Buzz and Betty Booze, were flooded by hateful comments, which began to echo through other social and traditional media outlets. On Information and Belief, the astroturfing campaign was responsible for this wave of comments. None of Ms. Lively's businesses could operate as they ordinarily had before. Instead, the Baldoni Wayfarer astroturfing campaign forced each of Ms. Lively's businesses to go dark on social media in August. Ms. Lively did the same for nearly 2 months, and during this time was unable to market or promote any of her businesses, all of which rely on her support, causing issues with many business partners and customers. Moreover, when Ms. Lively limited comments on her personal Instagram account to limit the toxic harassment she was receiving, those users simply migrated to the social media accounts and websites of Blake Brown, Betty Buzz, and Betty Booze. Many of the negative comments on these businesses' social media accounts and websites had nothing to do with the products or brands, but instead referenced the film, Mr. Baldoni, and or Ms. Lively as a bully or mean girl. The emotional impact on Ms. Lively has been extreme, not only affecting her, but her family, including her husband and 4 children. There are days when she has struggled to get out of bed, and she frequently chooses not to venture outside in public. While she has fought to maintain her personal life and business interests, behind closed doors, she has suffered from grief, fear, trauma, and extreme anxiety. She also had been experiencing repeated and painful physical symptoms as a result of this experience. Mr. Reynolds, too, has been affected mentally, physically, and professionally by his wife and children's pain. Worst of all, however, has been the impact on their young children, who have been traumatized and emotionally uprooted in ways that have substantially impacted their well-being. These are but a few examples of the substantial harm caused by this malicious campaign, which pervaded and continued to pervade all aspects of Ms. Lively's life. Ms. Lively never sought out conflict with Wayfarer, Mr. Baldoni, or Mr. Heath, but instead consistently attempted to speak up for a safe and respectful workplace privately in the hopes of protecting herself, as well as the cast and crew, without jeopardizing a film that she believed would make a difference in people's lives. In response, Mr. Baldoni, Mr. Heath, and those working for them sought to destroy Ms. Lively and anyone else who knew the truth. Ms. Lively's discovery of the full extent of the retaliatory campaign launched by the Wayfarer parties has left her with no choice. Through this complaint, Ms. Lively seeks to set the record straight, to hold the Wayfarer parties and associates accountable, and to shine a light on this new form of retaliation so that it will not be used against any others who seek to stand up and speak out against sexual harassment. Well done. Well written. Let's go to the chat for a minute. Get to the chat for your comments, thoughts, and concerns. Despite the look on my face, you're still talking, says. We don't need to know why she waited. We don't need to question her motives at all. To do so puts the onus on her. Instead, we should listen, vet her claims, and then respond accordingly. Well said. Mirsada says, still amazed at the meticulous work done in the complaint. No wonder it took time and quiet discipline. This might be a blueprint coming forward. Yeah, right. Agreed. Boone's Toilet Hooch says, two things can be true at once. Maybe he relied on her reputation as being rude to think he could get away with this behavior. Danielle says, we don't have to like her or her behavior to agree that she still can fall victim to a creep and deserves justice. Boone's Toilet Hooch again. I think he thought he could point to her as the problem and be believed, make her the villain, and come out clean regardless of what he did. That's what it sounds like. But you know what? If it stops this kind of stuff in the future, I mean, if it can happen to an A-list celebrity like Blake Lively, it can happen to anyone. No one deserves this. Right. One of the exhibits that I want to look at just quickly, because I have to run here, is the exhibit that had to do with the promotion of the film. So hang on one second. Okay, and here it is. This is the directives for the cast and crew, for the cast and producers, etc., everyone who would be involved with promoting the film. This was what they were to agree to. And this is August 9th. Well, it says 7/29/24 updated, but then it has a date of August 9th, 2024. So maybe that was the release date. I'll just scroll slowly through this so you can screenshot it and come back to it if you want to read the whole entire thing. And here's the log line and the summary. And here, what to avoid. This is what they were to avoid when doing their press tours and their interviews and promoting this film. What to avoid. Focus more on Lily's strength and resilience as opposed to describing the film as a story about DV. Empowerment is not just about standing up to adversity, but also about having the power to overcome within oneself and grow from it, and developing agency to shape the future. Avoid describing the film as a love story or love triangle. It's the story of Lily learning how to take agency of her future. Avoid talking about this film that makes it feel sad or heavy. It's a story of hope. Avoid talking about the film being representative of every woman's story. There are many stories of DV, and this is just one perspective that is inspired by Colleen Hoover's own experience growing up. This was her contract. And then Baldoni is the one who started to change the narrative. And then here's a whole section called Only If Asked. Any questions about the story not being an authentic representation of DV? This is just one perspective that is inspired by Colleen Hoover's own deeply personal story of growing up in Texas. Any questions about the lack of diversity in the cast? We have such a wonderful cast who'll bring something unique in telling this powerful story of one woman learning to take agency over her future. I'm so proud to be part of an incredible group of women who have to make this film that is inspired by Colleen Hoover's own deeply personal story. That was what they were to adhere to. That was what it was called. And here's the confidential scenario planning for It Ends With Us. Confidential. Not so confidential anymore. Drafted by his PR team that they never thought would see the light of day until, look, here it is. Here it is, seeing the light of day. Objective: protect the reputation of Justin Baldoni, Jamey Heath, and Wayfarer Studios in the lead up, during, and following the premiere of It Ends With Us. And here, though there are several there are several potential scenarios at play here, which we should be prepared for. Should Blake Lively and her team make her grievances public via a blatant story or subtle leak? Given she was made to compromise with the premiere, we feel she will move forward with doing so. Here we go. Scrolling through so you can read it all on your own because my voice is getting tired. Whole section on crisis mitigation and rapid response. Most of it is set out now, set forth in the complaint. There's the preparation material, all the things and stuff that they're going to do to unleash this campaign of terror on Blake Lively and her family. Key messaging points. Number one, JB's stellar reputation among colleagues and industry peers. Numerous quotes and interviews sharing positive experiences. Now, he's been a longtime activist and advocate for women in Hollywood. We read all about that. The Man Enough podcast. Wow. All of the things that this team was going to do. And there's their if-then plan of action. If Blake and team push out negative story regarding Justin, Wayfarer post-premiere, then here's all the things that we're going to do. You're going to have to come back and read it later because it's all here in the document and now everybody sees it. Much of it was talked about in the complaint, but some people need to see the receipts. They had all of this scripted, exactly what they would do. Here's scenario 3. What if Ryan comes forward in defense of his wife? Then here's all the things we're going to do. Wow. Oh, and then they mentioned Taylor Swift. If Ryan comes forward in defense of his wife, as part of this, our team can also explore planting stories about the weaponization of feminism and how people in Blake Lively's circle, like Taylor Swift, have been accused of utilizing these tactics to bully into getting what they want. Wow. There it is. Don't forget to hit the like, y'all. So watch the media. Watch how it'll spin. See if it spins. See if Justin Baldoni's team is still working on this. I don't know if anybody's seen anything on this today. I know I haven't because I've been working on this show for you. But there is one thing. Well, let me see where that is. They've got all the scenarios. I mean, look, these guys had every I dotted, every T crossed, all of them. Let me just find it for you. Oh, did I not flag it? And here it is in deadline. And this was, I think, earlier today. Let's see. Today, the 21st? Maybe this was yesterday. Justin Baldoni dropped by WME following Blake Lively's sexual harassment complaint. There's William Morris, one of the biggest talent agencies out there. Exclusive. Justin Baldoni is no longer a client of WME. The decision to have the actor, director, producer leave the agency was made Saturday morning by WME leadership. Wait, is today Saturday or Sunday? What day is it? I don't even know what day it is. It's Saturday. William Morris Endeavor, it's now called. William Morris Endeavor. At least in part to the sexual harassment and retaliation complaint filed late Friday by Baldoni's It Ends With Us co-star and fellow producer Blake Lively. Sources tell Deadline. Lively continues to be represented by WME. The agency did not respond to requests for comment from Deadline. If and when they do, we will update the story. Lively filed a 10-claim complaint late Friday with the California Civil Rights Department, accusing Baldoni, his production company, Wayfarer Studios, and others involved in It Ends With Us of sexual harassment and a coordinated effort to destroy her reputation. In the filing, she details the hostile work environment that had nearly derailed the production of the film and the multi-pronged astroturfing campaign that was allegedly launched against her by Baldoni and his company after the release of the film based on Colleen Hoover's book. The complaint details issues that Lively and or her employees allegedly had on set by being subject to nude videos or images of women, including producer's wife, mentions of Baldoni or fellow producer Jamey Heath's previous pornography addiction, discussions about personal experiences with, we went through all of this in the complaint. Baldoni, through his lawyer Brian Friedman, called the allegations completely false, outrageous, and intentionally salacious with an intent to publicly hurt and rehash a narrative in the media. Well, Mr. Friedman, counselor, my brother, did you read the complaint? Because there's a lot of receipts attached in there, including, the what if, then we do scenario that we just read. In addition to producing It Ends With Us through his Wayfarer Studios and starring opposite Lively, Baldoni directed the movie, which tackles TV. Oh, and the comments. I would say, let's go. We got to go for the comments, right? People say she destroyed her own reputation. They got the bots in here too, right? Under anonymous. Again, people who didn't read the complaint that we just read. She destroyed her own reputation. The interview where she made light of what she'd do if a DV sufferer saw her on the street. The other interview with her and Parker. The grab your girls and wear your florals. I mean, there you go. And so there's that. Thank you, my friends. Thank you to the moderators for hanging out. This is a long one today. I didn't know that it would go so long, but it takes me a long time to read that much, as I'm sure you can understand. I thought it was important that we read the whole entire thing so that we could comment intelligently about it. Thank you, Mike, for gifting a membership to whoever it was that won the membership randomly gifted by YouTube. Congratulations and welcome. Moderators, thank you so much for keeping it classy. This is a very, very difficult. Cyber Chicken Boston, thank you so much. So very much for the Venmo. This is not an easy topic to cover, not as vitriolic as some, but it is a very hard job for my moderators to keep the chat classy, as they always, always do. Merry Christmas to everyone. I'm sure I will see you again very, very soon. But what you're going to want to do is smash the like button and then also hit the subscribe and the bell so that you will know when I go live, because I always don't do it on a schedule. Sometimes it's random. Thank you, Cusco, for thanking me for the analysis I brought to us this year. Even if some of us has been troubling, it is troubling, but you know what? It's very eye-opening. Rubber duck and run amok. Very eye-opening, because who knows what else we've all been hoodwinked by, perhaps believing that may have been a well-orchestrated PR campaign. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. We will continue to cover it as always. So until then, my friends, stay cool, stay kind, stay classy. I know you can do it. I know you can, because you guys are amazing. Rise above. I think I'm Team Blake on this. I'm just going to say it right now. After reading that whole entire thing, I'm Team Blake. Maybe we need shirts. Okay. Peace out, everyone. I'll see you soon. Bye.